Jose Antonio de la Santísima Trinidad Bolívar y Ponte Palacios y Blanco. An extravagant name for quite the extravagant man. He was a hero to many, a liberator, but also a traitor to one of the most important empires to ever stretch the earth. Simón Bolívar was born in the capital city of the Captaincy General of Venezuela, Caracas, on July 24, 1783. From birth, Simón was already a somebody. The Bolívars were one of the most affluent Creole families in all of the Spanish Americas, and thus, Simón had a good start to life from a societal perspective. Though his family circumstances were not ideal. Marked by the death of his father and separation from his siblings during his upbringing, overall his childhood has been described by historian John Lynch as at once privileged and deprived.
If there's anything I know, there's no wrong way. As long as it's your.
The boy was reasonably educated, though always a bit of a troublemaker, and at a young age, he had already stumbled upon an idea that the Spaniards were passionately opposed to: Venezuelan independence. By 1797, young Simón Bolívar had already begun to dabble in the movement, to enough of an extent, in fact, that he was pushed into exile. After joining an honorary militia force, the boy would next follow his uncle, Esteban Palacios y Blanco, to Madrid, where he was given the chance to explore not only Spain, but eventually the viceroyalty of New Spain as well. This was only the start of his worldly travels, however, as he was soon banished from Madrid after a wave of political turmoil that had entangled his uncle. Bolívar would spend some time in Bilbao and Paris before being let back into Madrid and finally returning home to Caracas. By 1803, Simón was back in Europe, first in Madrid and then back to Paris after conflicts with the British caused Madrid to evacuate all non-residents.
When it's not.
It was here that Bolívar yet again began to think and now discuss with others the idea of not just Venezuelan independence, but freedom for all of Spanish America. Then Napoleon came along. Simón Bolívar was both intrigued and repulsed by the new emperor of the French, the latter feeling eventually overcoming him and leading to his departure from France in the spring of 1805. His destination after France was Italy, where he planned to explore from Milan to Venice to Florence and Rome. These travels, along with his prior ones, helped to expand Bolívar's thinking and open his mind to new ideas of sovereignty, power, and what the future could hold for his own homeland. It was at this time that he decided he was going to free Spanish America, even if it took till his final breath. Step one of Bolívar's new plan was, of course, to return to Venezuela. Ongoing warfare between the French, Spanish, and British made it difficult to leave, however, and it took until late 1806 for Simón to finally board a ship bound for the Americas, although it was an American vessel departing from Germany. Bolívar thus landed in Charleston, South Carolina, and from there did some notable traveling around the East Coast for the next 6 months. At long last, he would leave Philadelphia for Venezuela, where he hoped to make some quick connections with fellow independence supporters.
Ignite the fairways.
With Fireball.
Jiminy Cricket, you don't even have a club in your hand!
Although he was fairly successful at finding other Creole elites with similar ideas, they didn't agree with him fully, and Bolívar began to stand out as an extremist among the crowds of his hometown. The tide would change, though in a curious manner. The tide would change shortly after Simon's arrival in Caracas, nonetheless. By 1808, Napoleon had invaded the Iberian Peninsula and installed a puppet ruler, his own brother, in Spain. Suddenly, loyal to Spain Venezuelans started speaking Bolivar's language, independence. It wasn't because the Creole elites now wanted exactly what Simon wanted, however. It was instead because they remained loyal to Ferdinand VII of Spain, not Napoleon's puppet. Subsequently, many of these Venezuelans decided that they would rather form their own independent government as opposed to obeying the rule of the new king. This resulted in protesters taking to the streets with a petition to replace the existing government with a new independent one, and the current Captain General responded with a crackdown and arrests. Simón Bolívar, though not involved with the petition, was given a stern warning as part of the crackdown due to his own pro-independence assemblies. Still, the contemporary Captain General of Venezuela was soon replaced by Vicente Emperan, who was overall more friendly to the Creole elites and independence supporters. It was an improvement, but it still didn't satisfy the Ferdinand loyalists. When spring of 1810 rolled around, tensions in Venezuela reached their first tipping point.
Ooh, hey.
Hey, what's up?
Hello there.
How's it going, everybody?
Michael and everyone in the chat. I'm kind of been chatting with you guys while we were watching this. Bad Cookie says, "Is this when Venezuela became socialist and the bane of the USA's existence?"
Not quite. This is a little
Not
bit
quite yet.
before that. Yeah. This is a good example what happened with Venezuela of how, like in Marxist, more classical theory, there's often the need for a bourgeois revolution before the proletariat can have the opportunity for the proletarian revolution, and it's a good case study to analyze the flaws or accuracies of that kind of an analysis. So.
Yeah. So, hi, Lance. I haven't said hello to you yet, and Robert, no worries. You could just listen in. You only have 2 arms, so it's understandable. Good that you're here, though.
Yeah, sorry. Nice to meet you, Robert. I haven't seen you there before. I don't know if you know him there, but always good to see new viewers.
Yep. So this is more of the explanation of Bonapartism. Am I saying that correctly? Bonapartism. Yes.
Bonapartism, yeah.
Yes.
It is one of those contentious issues within Marxist circles, the revolutionary character versus the potential some kind of counter-revolutionary aspects of stuff like Bolivarianism. And this is where we, if you really want to get to know what communism is all about, you're going to have to learn about the complicated history between Trotskyists and Marxist-Leninists. And from what I can tell, based on my preliminary analysis, the Trotskyists are more in the camp that Simon Bolivar was just a Bonapartist, and the Marxist-Leninists are maybe finding reasons to support the more authoritarian strongman kind of way of achieving a revolution, I suppose. So.
Interesting. I'm not that familiar with Bonapartism.
Yeah, me neither. I'm trying to learn as I go. So this is where we're getting into the bit of the problem of trying to be an expert before you actually are. But hopefully I can do my best and I can provide something insightful for our viewers tonight. So there's Trotskyists are mean, Cookie's saying. There's a whole lot of
show me where they hurt you on a doll.
But to be fair, to be as dialectical as possible, Marxist-Leninists also have their their problems with arrogance and lack of dialectical application of their own methods.
Haven't you
Like,
got kicked out of some of the,
yeah, like there's
yeah,
way
haven't you
too
got
much
kicked out of
infighting.
some of the spaces?
I've been prevented from joining the Trotskyists with the WSWS website. They banned me off of their website for being too anti-vax or whatever. The Marxist-Leninists, whatever some
Drive
people would
safely,
even
John.
dispute. Yeah, thanks for popping in, John. Some people would dispute the Marxist-Leninist qualifications of a group like the American Communist Party, but pretty sure that those guys wouldn't really let me be part of their group, considering they kicked me off their Discord and stuff, and been kicked off of the Canadian Commie Discord or whatever. So it's like some people would just
What are you
consider me.
saying to these people?
Some people, well, for different reasons for each of them. Actually, this is a funny thing. It's not like it's been the same reason that I keep getting kicked off or whatever. But this is what the kind of track record that people might dismiss my voice as having any kind of merit, considering the actual communists don't really want to let me work with them or something like that. So I'm just finding that if we really want to move forward, we need to be willing to do the self-criticism that the Marxists like to be proud of claiming that they do lots of. And from my personal experience, there's a whole lot of criticism of other communists and not a whole lot of actual, like, hard looking at ourselves and where we may be being unfair with cherry picking things. Like, there's problems with should we be Stalinists or not? And I think we really got to stop trying to be like, if you don't support Stalin, you're not a communist, or if you don't appreciate any of Trotsky's works, you're not a communist or something. We have to find. We don't want to be eclectic, because there's a problem with something called eclecticism, where we're trying to pick and choose different things from, just take it or leave it, what you like from each different ideology. And that's kind of a liberal tendency. It's not really a good thing. But we do need to dialectically discard what is proven to be contradictory. We need to move past the contradictions. In order to do that, we need to be bold enough to actually talk about what they are. And there's a problem with getting canceled by trying to say something like, maybe there's a problem with this cult of personality possibility with I think it's more than a possibility. I think it should be admitted, cult of personality with Simon Bolivar, and the South American leftists are kind of trapped with having to honor this cult of personality in order to get anything political done. So, how's it going, Cobra? Good to see you.
Hello, Cobra. It's only 6 minutes left. Should we? I mean, I found it to be interesting. Should we just play the rest?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I just would not want to, because I'm worried about the copyright stuff, so I don't like playing those long videos too much. But if we can find a way to actually do it properly, if we critique it and some sort of thing, didn't really take the time to look into who the source is, but from what I can tell, he's just telling basic facts that are not particularly disputable, and it's helpful context to like. For one thing, I don't appreciate about trying to put Simon Bolivar on a pedestal is he comes from the Criollo elite, right? He's just sort of the white, rich, like in a position to be educated because he comes from the well-established colonial, like, wealthy elite. And then he had the opportunity to go get even more educated in Europe. And just because he happens to have brought a revolutionary independent, like a national liberation movement to South America, I feel there's a whole lot of baggage concerned with his, like he's a Freemason. It's another thing that I found out, right? So I don't like the idea of Marxists getting confused about, is this Freemason really like a true revolutionary that we should all uphold? I feel like that's a really bad idea. But how's it going, Golden Monarch?
Hi, Golden. Yes, we are talking about Venezuela and such. And I'll be playing that video that you gave to me. So thanks for that. Kudos for that. So Robert says that he does watch our channel. He just has never been up here live. So thank you for that, Robert. And now's a good time to remind everybody to like, share, and subscribe. We are 6 subscribers away from 200. Ooh. You know, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Hi, Antediluvian
really good.
Atheists.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, I think we're doing all right.
And just real quick, I think Robert Gibson's asking if I'm Russian. No, I'm Finnish, and English is my ethnicity. So
Blame Canada.
could have been Russian if things went differently historically.
It's about Yiddish, Robert. That's what it's
You
about.
can always blame Canada.
All right, so we're going to continue to watch the end of this, and then we'll be back on the other side. And you see down there it says fair use. Fair use, everybody. Because we are discussing it.
Vicente Emperan was more friendly than his predecessor, but not friendly enough to avoid being ousted by the Creole elite. In his place, the Supreme Junta of Caracas, which would be under the authority of Ferdinand, but not Spain as it was now, was created. After this occurred, Simon returned from a short absence and immediately joined the independence push. He found himself rapidly on a British warship as part of a diplomatic mission with the aim of gaining support from Great Britain for Venezuelans' new government and freedom. Having not accomplished this goal, but at least convincing veteran revolutionary Francisco de Miranda to return home, Bolivar made his way back to Venezuela in December of 1810. At first, in the face of hostilities from neighboring Venezuelan provinces, both Bolivar and Miranda went along with the idea of essentially semi-sovereignty, freedom from Spain, but not from Ferdinand. This was a short-lived campaign, though, because it wouldn't take long for a Spanish agent infiltrating the new formed Congress to be exposed, leading just enough of the Ferdinand supporters over the edge. On July 5th, 1811, Venezuela officially declared complete independence.
Pardon me,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to make you suffer
While
through the commercials.
significant conflict and instability would follow this declaration, Simón Bolívar had already achieved one of his goals and was far from stopping there. Even a temporary defeat of the newly founded republic couldn't stop the ambitious Creole, and he began to call for assistance from New Granada to retake occupied Venezuela. His persistence escalated as he tried to regain what had been lost, to the point of Bolívar declaring that all Spaniards in South America who were not on his side should be exterminated. By October of 1813, Bolívar had recaptured and again returned to his hometown, now hailed as the Liberator. The Second Republic of Venezuela was established under his authority as its dictator. But even still, this was not the end of his goals. Quickly after being declared dictator, Bolívar would be exiled from his Second Republic due to ongoing clashes with the opposition and ending up finding himself in New Granada. Resourceful as always, the Liberator soon got himself positioned as a commander of the New Granada armies, where he helped his new host country.
Sorry.
Be there or be square.
When it's not
Like an Uber commercial.
protect its own independence. Sadly for the wily Creole, however, New Granada would meet a similar fate as his own home, leading Simón to flee yet again. Jamaica was Bolívar's next destination. While there, he was asked by a Venezuelan pirate, Renato Belush, to join the exiled Republicans in Haiti, a request which he swiftly accepted. In Haiti, he managed to form a friendship with the president of the Republic of Haiti, to whom he swore he'd end slavery in his home country if he was able to retake it, thus gaining material support from the Haitians. After what seems like a string of chaos and challenges, finally, at long last, Bolivar would yet again succeed, and this time, his view of nearby New Granada had changed. He wanted to invade.
Ready-to-eat meal delivery services are not created equal. At Factor, it's
That
personal.
looks
Everything
delicious.
is done from scratch every single day. Nutrition and flavor
It won't let me skip.
is first and foremost when we create any dish.
Sign up for Factor today.
This is where I wish I could have the
50% off
control
your
of
first
videos
box at
again. 'Cause I like to
factormeals.com.
block every single ad I can. You hit the little
There's
eye
a
button.
bond here you
know,
won't
I
find
did
anywhere
too
else,
this time.
and it's for life.
Big time SEC
You
experience.
can block them faster than you can skip
The
them.
invasion went
to be there.
forward,
Yeah.
and by the end of
That was the last
1819
one,
had
though.
not only been successful, but had gone so far as to result in the formation of the Republic of Colombia, also known as Gran Colombia, and the merging of Venezuela and New Granada. Over the following years, Bolivar would then go on to begin orchestrating the independence of Peru, Ecuador, and the formation of the Republic of Bolivia. From there, the liberator and by now infamous traitor to the Spanish Empire looked to solidify his own rule and the general power and stability of Gran Colombia. His triumph was debatable, as revolts plagued the new republic despite Bolivar's efforts to stabilize it. Eventually, in April of 1830, Simón Bolívar, in all his controversy and glory, resigned. He had freed Spanish America from the Spaniards, but it seems that he just couldn't make order of the chaos that followed. Still, when the liberator died of alleged tuberculosis on December 17, 1830, at the ripe age of 47, he may have been disappointed by the current state of his new nation. But he could nevertheless say that far before his dying breath, he really had liberated Spanish America as he swore he'd do. Without men like Bolivar, it's hard to know what South America would look like today. And without Simón in particular, it's reasonable to wonder if the domino of independence declarations across the continent would have even happened at all, at least at that time. Simón Bolívar, the liberator, and one of the biggest thorns in Spain's back, is still seen today as a hero and protector of freedom for many. But for an entire empire of his time, he was far from anything noble. Instead, he was a criminal, a traitor, and a threat to the power of the entire colonial empire of Spain.
Of course he was.
So that's a pretty good general overview of sort of the rough sketch of the liberatory mission that he fought for.
So he
But
was inspired by Bonapartism.
Yeah, in some
That's what I
to
got
some
from it.
degree. But one thing that they mentioned in that video is that he was intrigued by Napoleon, but then also repulsed by him to some degree. At least it makes the claim that he was more repulsed than intrigued. But I do feel that he seems to have kind of followed in Napoleon's footsteps, regardless of what he thought about Napoleon's flaws. I feel that it's problematic to kind of look at him as a terribly revolutionary figure here, because from my perspective, it seems like he was just kind of he was not anti-imperialist enough, really. That's kind of the core problem. He's well remembered for making promises to the slaves and the indigenous to free them and give them like full rights, and that's not what happened. So I feel we're being a little too generous to the colonizers because they're not British or whatever, because they're Spanish. We kind of forget that they're still European in a sense or whatever. Like we're being a little too generous by acting like he was acting in good faith, as if he could not have been deceiving the slaves by promising something he never intended to give, right? So this is where I may come across as a
Colonizers gonna colonize.
Yeah. And this is one of the problems with the modern, like, communists, like the ACP guys or whatever, have been kind of run up on the rocks of not being cooperative enough with the indigenous groups, kind of rejecting their theories as not revolutionary. Like the anti-colonial theory is not necessarily Marxist, and there's a potential for us to not be able to achieve our objectives because we're kind of squabbling over whose theory is more valid. And if Marxism, in my opinion, doesn't really integrate with anti-colonial theory and the anti-imperialist, anti-colonial kind of stuff, it's going to end up just being like Eurocentric kind of garbage, you know.
Yeah, that's a huge issue with I was watching today, this is kind of off the subject, but I was watching this video about how Christianity is doomed to fail because there's so many, like, for thousands of years there's so many different sects of Christianity that have been fighting each other. And just because, like, now, because they're so focused on fighting against Muslims, and they have a, like, the Zionist connection that they're like unifying, but then if something occurs where they do make, I'm talking about Christian nationalists in America, okay? If somehow they get their way and this does become a Christian country, right? Then they're just going to start fighting with each other because each sect thinks their sect is the true religious thought or what have you.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of the same with these political ideologies, right? Like, there's no compromise in it at all. It's just like if you don't believe everything in my echo chamber of ideology, then you got to go. We don't want you here. So maybe that's what you're experiencing.
Definitely, yeah. And it's bad enough just to experience it on an individual level, but from what I like, in my opinion, hopefully it's more than just an opinion. If we don't resolve these contradictions that are leading us to, destroy ourselves before we even have an opportunity to wage any kind of struggle against the bourgeois, okay, we're just, it's a severe problem for our movement, for our like revolutionary potential. We're destroying our foundation over and over again so that we can have I think it's a bit about like wanting the legacy of being like this, confusing the great man theory of history with like we need to totally reject that, right? Like, some people want to kind of have, like, go for the glory and be like this generation's Stalin or whatever, Lenin, right? And that kind of arrogance is going to undo the movement, right? We're not trying to elevate individuals above the crowd as if it couldn't be done without them, because that is the major insinuation, if not actual, not just an insinuation, but the declaration that, like, without a Stalin, it's not going to happen, right? So to me, that's not Marxism. That's great man theory of history, and it can be very toxic. So,
are you up next to share something? Because I think you wanted to talk more about this subject, right?
Let me pick.
Okay.
Yeah, let me.
I just want to remind you.
Share.
Yep. Hi, Rondo. Yep. Peace, fam. So I was just thinking, I'm looking at this this joke from Bad Cookies, and I don't know why I just thought about this. I was like, you know how Kurt Metzer is like the resident comedian, but he writes all of his jokes for Jimmy Dore ahead of time. And I was just like, we got like 2 comedians in our family that writes the jokes on the fly. So we're better than you. That's a shout out to Bad Cookies and Mastermind Hour.
Nice. What's up, Mastermind Hour? Saw you popped in there. Good to see you. So one of the tricky things about this, doing research about this stuff, is having to use our search engines that are inherently against us. So unless you know to be critical and cautious about like which Marxist sect is writing this apparently Marxist script here, because if you don't do that, you might end up not realizing that you're reading a Trotskyist versus a Marxist-Leninist or whatever. So this article is from a website called Workers' Liberty, Reason in Revolt, and I'm pretty confident that they're Trotskyist. So that being said, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't read what they have to say in order to understand the contradictions between the different groups. Why do they have such animosity? We're never going to actually resolve their conflict with each other if you don't even care why they have such angst with each other. So as far as Lenin, the quote that I have on my Twitter page in my little bio is that you can't be a communist unless you read everything. I think I might have paraphrased that a bit, but that's something I really appreciate Lenin saying. Obviously, we can't read every single thing. That's impossible, but we should do our best to read from as many different sources as possible in order to have the most effective worldview to bring about change. So without further ado, I'm just going to read this little, it's not that long, so I'll just kind of read it. This is from Eduardo Tovar on July 2018. So maybe not quite timely enough, but some of these things are very long-term. Whether it's written yesterday doesn't make a difference. So El 5 de Julio is Venezuelan Independence Day. It marks the day in 1811 when a Congress of Venezuelan provinces declared Venezuela's separation from the Spanish crown. In doing so, Venezuela became the first Spanish-American colony to declare independence. For most Venezuelans, this is a day to commemorate not only the initial signatories to the Declaration of Independence, but also the major figures in the broader fight for national liberation from Spanish rule. Chief amongst these is Simon Bolivar, or I guess Simon, popularly known as El Libertador. My Spanish is awful. So Bolivar is lionized for bringing freedom.
And your French ain't that good either.
No, and my Finnish is far worse. I know like 3 words. So Bolivar is lionized for bringing freedom to not only Venezuela, but also to Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Panama. So powerful are the connotations of liberation, Pan-Americanism, and anti-colonial struggle, this is something I would dispute, whatever, because ultimately there was they kind of replaced the old colonizers with colonized descended southern like Latin Americans. So but I digress. Anti-colonial struggle around his name that the late Hugo Chavez readily described his own political movement as Bolivarianism, and even changed his country's official name to the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela under the Constitution of 1999. Indeed, Chavez and his successor Nicolas Maduro were so keen to establish a continuity between Chavismo and Venezuela's initial anti-colonial revolution that in 2013 the Maduro administration controversially added Chavez's signature to a museum-exhibited copy of the 1811 Declaration of Independence. So I don't really like that kind of showboating, whatever, propagandistic nonsense, trying to rewrite history, and that's fine because we're communists, whatever. Like, I don't. Yeah, that's a step too far for me. But
I mean, he wasn't even alive at that time, so why would you do that?
It's just a thing to do for. It's like one of these nothing burger things that Trump's always doing. Whatever. It's just some political stunt that you can try and get some stupid support from people who will buy into that as something worth giving you support over, or whatever. You know?
It's the Gulf of America, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Let's just do something, whatever, to get people's attention. So, but I shouldn't shit on them too much. These people like Chavez and them have done way more than a person like me has or possibly ever will. So that will always be thrown in my face. How's it going, Mouse? Good to see you. Let me get back to reading here. It is disquieting that large sections of the international left valorize a movement that enthusiastically views itself as Bolivarian. Remember, this is coming from the Trotskyists, right? Much of this disquiet stems from the political character of Bolivar himself. In December 1857 to January 1858, Marx wrote an extremely depreciating article on Bolivar for the New American Cyclopedia titled Bolivare Ponte. To be clear, numerous historical details within the article are mistaken, including the subject's full surname, which was in fact Bolivari Blanco, probably because Marx was working from unreliable materials. So this is one of those instances where it's in our best interest to recognize that Marx was only a human being and that he could and did make mistakes. And if we want to build on any of his work, we need to be willing to recognize which parts of that foundation cannot be relied on. So I think it's I found it quite fascinating to find that Marx had wrote something specifically about Bolivar and that it was negative. And Marx is basically the one where the charge of Bonapartism comes from to begin with. So you can be mad at the Trotskyist all you like for having these kinds of accusations, but they are basically just reverting to Marx's own words, you know. So, but then you get this whole squabble over who's interpreting the revered leaders, whatever theoreticians' words correctly, you know. So, but that is what we have to do. We have to understand which of our modern sects of this whatever movement we're supporting are factually correct and factually incorrect. That's just the dirty parts of the unsexy parts of organizing and all that, right? So and I'll get into reading about who is Hal Draper next. That's kind of an important little side note. But so because Marx is working from unreliable materials. Nevertheless, as Hal Draper points out in his 1968 New Politics article, Karl Marx and Simon Bolivar, Marx's factual errors about Bolivar's life do not negate his political evaluation. So this is one of those instances, if you learn about the fallacies, like there's a whole bunch of different fallacies, or whatever. Just there's the fallacy is a fun one. Just because you've used incorrect logical reasoning to make your point doesn't mean the point itself is actually incorrect. It just means you were sloppy in the strategy you used to try to make your point. So that's important to recognize, I think. Just because like people will dismiss that like Marx's conclusions about Bolivar because he did bad homework, right? But then it's important to save the baby from the bathwater kind of thing without being eclectic. So whilst his acerbic treatment of Bolivar's military skills is somewhat overdrawn, Marx's Cyclopedia article consistently highlights the central problem of Bolivar's position as an authoritarian, militaristic aristocrat leading a generally progressive movement for independence. The relevant theoretical lens through which Marx viewed Bolivar was Bonapartism. As Marx elaborated in such pieces as the 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte and the Rule of the Praetorians, Bonapartism is where a military regime assumes political control of the state during a stalemate in the class struggle. In such periods, the bourgeoisie loses much of its political power, but retains its social power, and its long-term interests enjoy the protection of the military regime. Moreover, the state attains an unprecedented level of autonomy from civil society. Marx repeatedly makes his characterization of Bolivar as a Bonapartist explicit. For instance, in a letter to Engels dated 14th of February 1858, Marx calls Bolivar a veritable soluque, which was a common sobriquet for Napoleon III. One could even say that the main theme of Marx's Cyclopedia article is the fundamental tension between Bolivar's Bonapartism and the interests of the independence movement. On numerous occasions, Bolivar attempted to assert personal dictatorship in the face of attempts by the anti-colonial revolutionaries to establish democracy. In his 1812 Manifesto of Cartagena, written shortly before he took Caracas and openly assumed a dictatorial role, Bolivar described his compatriots as not yet capable of exercising their legal rights. Similarly, in his 1815 letter from Jamaica, he asserts that the radical democratic system established in the U.S. would bring ruin upon South Americans, who in Bolivar's view lacked the talents and virtues to make such a system feasible. So while these are the words written by a Trotskyist, if his analysis is correct, those are not good things to be brushing aside, as you know, his criticisms appear to be valid, and from my analysis here, it is problematic that Bolivar has kind of had these dictatorial tendencies and has this paternalistic attitude that the people themselves can't be trusted with democracy or whatever. You don't deserve the vote because you don't know what to do with it. We see that kind of thing from fascists all over the place, right? And if we get far enough into some of the other sources I have, you do see that it's not just the Chavez and the Marxists who are trying to elevate the cult of personality of Bolivar. The fascists have definitely also tried to claim him as part of their legacy, right? So to me, that just says we should try our best to distance ourselves from having to pay homage to that cult of personality, right? If you really want to do a radical revolutionary kind of thing for the people, we need to stop involving the great man theory of history in our politics, right? Because when I'm reading this, I found some, maybe this is a subjective bias, but what came to mind with just reading this is Stalin, right? So I think that there are some parallels that you can draw between Bolivar's apparent or so-called Bonapartism and Stalin, who seems to have also had some Bonapartist tendencies. And I think we also, just for as an aside, in the U.S., we want to currently we might find value in analyzing the Trump administration for Bonapartism. That might help us understand what's happening as far as is it all a show? The duopoly is a complete illusion that they're all working together behind the scenes, or is Trump really a renegade, whatever, destroying the capitalists or whatever to bring back America, right? Make it great again, right?
Oh, he's destroying something, all right.
I think there is some
he's definitely destroying some shit.
Yeah, but from what I'm just applying the Bonapartist lens, I do see he's not like a full Bonapartist. Whatever. This is where the AI is maybe influencing my analysis, because I kind of rely on that a little.
Antediluvian atheist says Bolivar and Bolivarianism are two different things. The Bolivarian socialists made of him what they wanted.
Right. And is that idealistic, or is that the materialistic thing to do? I think we want to try and maintain the contradictions that we can observe in the historical materialism of what Bolivar did and did not do. And that's what we need to use to build on to avoid those mistakes. Because I feel like, it is very complicated because we see what's happening with the U.S. right now, sending warships to Venezuela and stuff. They've got us between this rock and the hard place. It's just like what happened with Assad in Syria, right? I'm not really a big pro-Assad kind of guy. I might be getting in trouble with people for saying that, right? But we are in a bad situation where we are, like, argumentatively, we're trying to defend rhetorically, like, Assad and his policies and whatnot, but it's not really defending Marxism. It's defending a bourgeois anti-imperialist, an apparent anti-imperialist, because they're opposing the United States. But at the end of the day, they're not really trying to achieve socialism, but we're supporting them because they're fighting the greater imperialist of the US. So that's just a messy kind of praxis that we're stuck in with that, I think. I'm not sure how to get out of it, because the thing is, you end up helping the American imperialists by having criticisms of the Maduro regime, whatever, treating it like it's a regime instead of a legitimate government and stuff, whatever. Even if technically, theoretically, you may be advancing a good dialectic argument, whatever, pragmatically, you may be kind of doing something counterproductive for the collective of the people around you, whatever, right? It's very tricky. I don't really know quite what my stance on this is yet, but I'm getting a little bit on a tangent now. So, got any comments? What's up, Indy?
No, I don't know enough about. I don't know enough about it to say very much. I tried to look up Bonapartism, and it was just like the ideologies of Bonaparte. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I get that, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Our search engines are working against us. That doesn't tell you shit. Yeah.
Right.
Because I think Bonapartism is something that is particular to Marxism, right? If you want to like ask what it is definitionally, you have to take the Marxist definition of it, because otherwise you're taking like anti-communist definition of a communist term that they invented, you know. So, but yeah, I feel like Marx did a lot of work on Bonapartism in France and stuff, so that's part of his like strongest work in a sense. But it was also when he was younger, so maybe when he was older he had time to develop some understanding of where he might have been a little bit incorrect about things. But I gotta do more reading, and who has the time for all that? You'd have the time, the energy, and the inclination, or else it doesn't work. So, well,
this is a good start.
Yeah, at least I'm trying, right? And this is where by doing it in a live format, I would be appreciative of anyone who has some corrections or criticisms of my conclusions that I'm trying to draw, to help me get on the right track if I'm just getting confused about something, right? Gotta try and keep an open mind. So, Antediluvian says, Abby, Bonapartism is basically capitalists doing socialist policies without handing over any power. Bread and circuses. Right. So from what I was reading, from what my understanding is, they're saying Bonapartism emerges when there is like a standstill that happens between the class struggle. So the bourgeoisie kind of loses their ability to dominate the proletariat, but the proletariat doesn't quite have the ability to dominate the bourgeois. So there's like a third party, which is typically the state itself, or an authoritarian ruler that only derives its authority from the state. So the state becomes an important mediator in the struggle between the classes.
This is very interesting. And please respond to her anti-Diluvian atheist. I'm tongue-tied. But Jacqueline says, thank you for the explanation about Bonapartism. And I was just about to ask, but wasn't Napoleon Bonaparte an imperialist, or was that just his bad press from the British? So I was just about to say to you, Michael, that it's what it seems like they're trying to portray Maduro as is like a Bonapartist, which kind of fits this description that we're talking, Jacqueline and Antediluvian are discussing at the moment. So what do you think about that? And hi, Mousy.
That's where the explanation that it was earlier in this article wherever they said it.
Let me go back.
Yeah, sorry. So Bonapartism is where a military regime assumes political control of the state during a stalemate in the class struggle. In such periods, the bourgeoisie loses much of its political power, but retains its social power and its long-term interests enjoy the protection of the military regime. So if its long-term interests enjoy the protection of the military regime, it isn't exactly what we would call a stalemate in the class struggle, is it? Because what's occurred is the military regime is acting to protect the long-term interests of the bourgeoisie instead of the proletariat. So what Antediluvian Atheist is saying kind of holds, right? She's saying it's basically when they do socialist policies without handing over any power. So they do the bait and switch with the working class, right? They appeal to like nationalistic tendencies, whatever, demagogic. They do demagoguery, whatever. They just appeal to people's feelings and sentiment instead of fact.
Demagoguery.
Yeah. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like how the state resorts to fascism in order to protect capitalism, right? So it's ultimately, at the end of the day, the fascists always intend to hand over ultimate authority back to the capitalists, but there is a certain situation that occurs because of the contradictions of capitalism itself, where they lose the ability to assert their control and dominance because it's a system that's not capable of maintaining sustainability. So when its weaknesses become too powerful, they are forced to kind of resort to the fascists. And it's the same thing with Bonapartism. It's like, this is where I find Bonapartism is like a concept that's invented before fascism, but they seem quite similar, right? It's all about military authority kind of being the backbone of national legitimacy, you know?
Well, with that being said, so I have some articles about Venezuela's economy right now under socialism, which seems like that would go really good with this segment.
Sure, we can
Do you
do
have
that.
any other articles about that you want to?
I got a couple of things.
Do you have anything else before
I think
I
we
mean,
might
on the
as well.
subject?
Yeah, let's go to what you were doing, and then I'll
And
figure
if
out
you
what
want
I
to
want.
wrap it up with a bow, we could do that too.
Yeah, we'll see,
Okay.
because there's a couple. I want to talk about the cult of Simon Bolivar and how it was established by the liberals, the Liberal Party in Venezuela. Okay, so as far as
Mm.
Marx is trying to say that we should be supporting this Bolivarianism, it's like the only reason why it's become so massive and widespread is because of a liberal trying to pump it into what it's become and exaggerate it. So why do we want to perpetuate that? So let's just, sorry to go ahead. So.
No, you're fine. So I'm not going to read this because it's a very mediocre way of describing the problem. Of course, because it's from Fox News. So, how socialism turned Venezuela from the wealthiest country in South America into an economic basket case. An economic basket case, it says.
It's very loaded
I
language,
can,
Fox.
yeah, I can play their two videos, so, and then we'll move on to some more detailed discussions about it, about their economy under socialism. Come on, you could do it. You could do it. I think somebody else was in the chat. Hi, driving Miss Macy.
Hey, how's it going?
I don't know what's going on. Oh, it wants to. Okay, gotta go through this ad with me.
Yeah, at least the sometimes you have to watch it, but at least we can mute it. Usually.
Yeah, it just seems like you don't know what you're doing.
Is it paused or is it frozen? Oh. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see.
We should get around to just paying for an ad block.
Well, it doesn't even look like it wants to play, so.
Yeah, sorry about that. You know, maybe we can
There's
reload the
that.
page.
So sorry about that.
So I
Let's
guess
see
you
if
don't get
this
to
other
find
one
out
plays.
how socialism gained a foothold. Too bad.
Yeah, I really wanted to play it. I played it before. It's only one ad. Let me just see.
It's hard to tell if
You know
we
what?
just refresh the page and it'll work, or we'll just get stuck making kind of shitty content for people while we're waiting for a video that doesn't play. So sorry, guys.
Our friends are patient with us. They know it's not our fault. So we appreciate that. Let's see. I could do it this time.
Well, apparently there's some free ad blockers, so I just assume that there's always a catch, you know.
Yeah. Okay, well, it doesn't want to play.
All right. Well, we'll have to just
Well,
move on.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm going to move on because, like I said, I didn't want to really read through this one anyway because it is Fox News, so we already know what the deal is with them. So I'm going to move on to this one. Now, I'm going to read this one, okay? I'm going to go ahead and read it, but it's from the Manhattan Institute, 2019. And then after I read it, we're gonna look into the person who wrote the article, and then you guys could tell me if you feel like this is a what's the word? Uh, a little bit of propaganda mixed with a little bit of possible truth. Now
That's
something
usually the
wants to
most
play.
effective propaganda when you mix it with some truth.
Something's playing. Okay, hold on. Oh shit!
Oops.
I just lost it.
Well, I guess I'll have to be a little bit even more patient.
I could pull it up though. Yes,
this is where
I could
need
pull
to
it
have
up.
some jokes ready. I got to work on my my banter.
I know. Where's Bad Cookies and and Mastermind when you need them? Doom. All right, here we go. I got you. I got to reshare now. There. All right. So this is from the Manhattan Institute by Daniel D. Martino. Okay, how socialism destroyed Venezuela. Many in the media have blamed Venezuela's worsening humanitarian crisis on corruption, mismanagement, failing oil prices, or U.S. sanctions. Anything but the rise of socialism in what was once the wealthiest country in South America. Yet, corruption and mismanagement were the direct result of increased government control of the economy, socialism, and in the reality, lower oil prices and U.S. sanctions have little to do with the crisis. It's all socialism, nothing else. Okay. Instead, the mass starvation and exodus faced by Venezuelans are the natural consequence of the socialist policies implemented by dictators Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro. There are three main policies implemented by Chavez since 1999 that produced the current crisis: widespread nationalization of private industry, currency and price controls, and the fiscally irresponsible expansion of welfare programs. One of Chavez's first actions was to start nationalizing the agriculture sector, supposedly reducing poverty and inequality by taking from rich landowners to give to poor workers. From 1999 to 2016, his regime robbed more than 6 million hectares of land from its rightful owners. Now, I did the conversion of hectares, and that's about a little over 14 million acres of land. Okay. Nationalization destroyed production in affected industries because no government has the capacity to run thousands of businesses or the profit motive to run them efficiently. The profit motive. But you're assuming that the purpose is for profit. That's your biggest mistake. because they're talking from a capitalist mindset.
Yeah, everything
It's-
rests on their presuppositions, right?
Hi, Indy.
What's up?
Good to see you here. Talking a little Venezuela, a little can't say the word.
Speaking of which,
Bonapartism,
yeah, Indy
socialism.
last week, Indy did a good segment on Venezuela. Unfortunately, it's the last segment on like a 2-hour show, so it's a bit hard to, unless we clip it or something, hard to send people to go check it out. But I forget what it's called too. My bad, River. But yeah, on Sunday,
On Sunday.
I appreciated
Very
his.
good.
It was very thorough and effective. So safe and effective.
I have to go back and look. And then there's we should plug the other channel. What is it? Ocho 8?
Oh yeah, INN the Ocho is where they got boats smashing into boats on Sunday. So they do a double feature on Sunday. You get the serious stuff, and then you get the little bit of a palliative after that. Some comedy.
You're absolutely right.
That's
That
right.
is
How
the
did I miss
show.
that? That's what it's called. I can't believe I missed it. So yeah, check out
That is
Indie
the
News
show,
Network.
yes.
Yeah,
I
always
think I
doing
was
good
too
work.
busy watching. I always love watching the Jessie Jet and Indy shows. So those always make me feel all warm and so fuzzy and good inside. So we appreciate you, Indy. So let's get put
Oh,
her
bit of a glitch there.
home
You cutting out a
just in
bit,
case
Abby.
you
You might
missed
wanna,
it from reading. Can you hear me now?
yeah, just repeat whatever you just
I,
said, maybe.
I said, you see how they're putting this quote from the article in a header font, just in case you miss it from reading the article. But I digress. Nationalization destroyed production in affected industries because no government has the capacity to run thousands of businesses or the profit motive to run them efficiently. Instead, government officials face incentives to please voters by selling products at low prices and hiring more employees than necessary, even when that's the wrong industry decision. So, an economic theory predicted as state control of the agricultural industry increased, Venezuela's food production fell 75% in 2 decades, while the country's population increased by 33%. Now, what they don't tell you in this article is that Venezuela imports more food than it produces. So that is a factor if your population is increasing and your food production is not. Uh, so, so, so that has nothing to do with socialism. That has something to do with, how your government is managing the country. So this was a recipe for shortages and economic disaster. After agriculture, the regime nationalized electricity, water, oil, banks, supermarkets, construction, and other crucial sectors. And in all these sectors, the government increased payrolls and gave away products at low cost, resulting in days-long countrywide blackouts, frequent water service interruptions, failing oil production, and bankrupt government enterprises. Yet taking over the most important sectors of the economy was not enough for the socialist regime. In 2003, Chavez implemented a foreign currency control scheme. I love how that's a very powerful word to use. A foreign currency control scheme where the government set an overvalued exchange rate between the Venezuelan currency and the US dollar. Our one goal of the scheme was to reduce inflation by overvaluing the currency, subsidizing imported products. But the currency control meant the regime had to ration available US dollars to importers since at an overvalued cheap exchange rate, there was more demand for US dollars than supply. Naturally, a black market for foreign currency emerged and corrupt regime members and lucky individuals assigned cheap US dollars obtained large profits. Even worse, The scheme actually increased inflation since overvaluing the currency reduced government oil reserves in Venezuelan currency, leading the regime to print money to cover the ensuing budget deficit. So they're
Let's not
saying,
mention the 2008 crash at all. That had nothing to do with falling oil prices.
yeah,
Sorry.
and exactly. No, that's a really good point. Like these other factors outside the
Oh, you're glitching out again. I'm not sure if it's just for me or for the audience. If you guys could let us know if you can still hear us or see us. Sorry. Abby, you seem frozen to me now.
oh, there was a glitch in the matrix, huh?
Yeah, there you go. There you're back.
Yeah, so there's actually someone who's there's another article where they fact check this information and speak about like when you're. We'll get to that part, okay? Let's put a pin on that part. All right, but they're acting like the U.S. doesn't just print money out of the sky either.
Yeah, like
So
that's
that
not
has
a
nothing to
foreign
do with
currency control scheme.
socialism, right?
Yeah, the
Right,
biggest one out
exactly,
there.
exactly. But that's not a scheme. That's a oopsie. When we get inflation out of that. According to Alan Greenspan, he just didn't he miscalculated. My bad.
Yeah. And I don't know anyone who does anyone trust the inflation numbers that we're given? Because according to our governments right now, our inflation is completely under control. Nothing to worry about. What is the true rate
Yeah,
of
I don't know if
inflation?
you guys want me to finish. Well, I'm almost done. Okay, we're almost done. So
Hmm.
just stay with me,
Go ahead.
okay?
Yeah.
All right. So the socialist regime also implemented price ceilings on hundreds of basic products such as beef, milk, and toilet paper. At artificially low prices, more people were willing to buy these products, but the few private factories left, not nationalized, could not profit at the government cap price. So they reduced or halted their production. Instead of benefiting the poor, price ceilings predictably resulted in shortages that forced them to stand in line for hours while supermarket employees and the well-connected obtained the products they needed. So this is another example of okay. I'm gonna use this analogy where Trump put all those tariffs on. Where we now know it was nothing but a money laundering scheme. He had no intention of bringing manufacturing jobs back to the United States, which people who have sense already know that.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Sorry guys, we're just having one of those glitches in the matrix moments where I am gonna do my best to get my dad in to help me with his computer expertise because I need to get somebody who knows a bit more to help me out. But this might be an issue on Abby's end. I'm not sure if it's me or her, but hopefully she'll be back momentarily. Otherwise, maybe Abby would have to back out and then hop back in. We'll see if that could help out. But she's the one sharing
Okay,
her
hello
article right now.
everybody.
Hopefully she can finish it. There we
And
go.
in
Okay.
in my defense, StreamYard's been acting a little funny. Like I was watching the Political Matrix, and they were having these same issues. Um, and we had these issues last week, so I think it's a StreamYard thing. But hi, Cowboy Kitty. Good to see you here. And hi, Steve Wolfie. Good to see you. Okay, so, oh, thanks, Robert. I will take you up on that offer. All right, so here we go. What I was about to say was about the analogy of um, the tariffs were supposed to bring manufacturing jobs back, and it's like, okay, well, shouldn't you like make sure the plants are built first before you go on this tariff war because you still have to produce the things that you are trying to force companies to come back to build, correct? You need the infrastructure to do that, which means, and it takes years to build a plant. You can't just throw those up. So this kind of sounds like the same thing, right? Where was the infrastructure of building these factories? Because you know these private factories are going to run off once you put a.
Oh, there we go again. Fuck, we lost the stream. Yeah, Mouse is saying. So, what was I trying to? I had a thought that I was waiting for Abby to make her piece. Now I'm kind of forgetting it when I should have something to say here. So, let me just try and remember. Yeah, there we go. Oh, she's almost
Finish
back.
streaming. We're gonna have to put the hands down sign. I hope you guys heard me. Do you have any comment on what I said?
We lost you at the end. Sorry, momentarily. It's hard to have a comment when you can't hear the full context.
Mousy. Iron's trying to sabotage us. What you doing, Indy?
I remember what I was gonna say something about. You were talking about Trump is lying about bringing back the domestic production, right? And then one of the other things that really reveals that is they are trying to save their U.S. dollar, but if you bring back manufacturing to the U.S., that changes the dynamics of what's good for them to have a strong or a weak currency in the U.S., where the stronger the American dollar, the less of an incentive a capitalist has to have their production in the United States, because they can make more profit by having a strong dollar and their production overseas. So if you put the production back domestic, you would want to weaken your dollar so as to have more competitive exports. And so there's just like a contradictory dynamic there that they can't really reconcile, right? They either have to go for the U.S. Global reserve currency, or kind of admit that it's over and do protectionist U.S. policy. So what are they going to do?
Well, that was what Trump was supposed to be doing, protectionist U.S. policy. Didn't turn out that way.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do?
If he is a bit of a Bonapartist candidate there, just kind of touching back on what we were talking about, the faction that he would be supporting would be the more far-right nationalist, like fascist capitalists that want production to come back home because they want to strengthen the nation, you know. But then the globalist faction would be the neoliberals, are the ones that they want the US dollar to stay like it was, so that they can keep, like, they have no loyalty whatsoever to American soil, right? And blood. So they could care less if it's like what color or what age or whatever the kid in the whatever factory in whatever country is doing their work, as long as they keep making the profit. But that's not quite as I don't know, it's not the classic fascist. That the globalists, they're like a different kind of fascist, you know what I'm saying? Which is worse. And we're waiting on Abby to come back again. I think maybe we should try, if you're done, if you can try and finish up reading this article, you should try backing out and then coming back in. And if you can hear me, you probably can't hear me either. So this is sorry, not turning out to be our greatest work because of these technical problems. So hopefully we can do better for you guys. Yeah, so I'm thinking I'm just going. Oh, there she goes. I was going to say, if she's not coming back anytime soon, I will have to find something to talk about. I'm going to share my screen. I think this is a good opportunity for me to mention Cowboy Kitty's fundraiser. I had asked if you could let me know a bit of an update about what's going on, and sadly, it's the same story as last week. We're just waiting on a judge to release her, and until that decision is made, she's just kind of left to rot, and she is not doing very well. As you can imagine, this is very hard on her mentally and physically. it is definitely a traumatic experience. So please share the GoFundMe and donate if you have the means. Let's not get apathetic about what we can do for people in these circumstances. So I'm just sharing the link in the chat here.
Yeah, and I saw Indy was sharing this too, so that's great.
Well, it's telling me I'm having trouble connecting. Please check my internet connection. So maybe I should drop out and come back in. And now my mouse isn't working. There we go. Okay.
But while you do that, I'm going to go back to the article, and we're going to keep this up for a while.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
So people could get it. Okay, sure. So it's almost done, but perhaps the most harmful part of the Venezuelan socialist project is the part that the international media and leftist figures use to praise most frequently: welfare programs. Oh my gosh, this article is becoming more and more insufferable, as if they don't have welfare programs for corporations. So socialism for me and not for thee is basically what capitalism says. Anyway, the socialist regime created social missions aimed at tackling poverty, illiteracy, healthcare, and more. But despite enjoying higher government oil revenues due to a tenfold rise in oil prices from $10 a barrel in 1999 to more than $100 a barrel in 2008, the regime financed a growing deficit by printing more currency. So he, like you said, Nahilo, he failed to mention what happened in 2008. Why did those barrels of oil jump to $100? But yeah, by all means, let's just get back to the welfare programs for the little people, not for the banks who got bailed out. I think that's a welfare program, but I digress. Expansive welfare programs and massive public works projects provided ever-growing.
Hey, Sean and Fiddleford, good to see you. Sorry about the glitches today, but appreciate your solidarity. Yeah, it's just not wanting us to get this article out, you know. I'm thinking maybe this is one of those streams I should probably not share my camera. We'll see if that will help. If we can just do our audio only, try and stress our machines a little less. So it is taking her a little while to get back this time. It's just a little bit tricky for me to have anything to filibuster about because I don't have I didn't have access to her article there to prepare ahead of time, and I had all my own kind of research that I've got. So I was kind of like, she'll do her segment and I'll do mine, but if she's glitching out, that's not really working. So I had mentioned before we had gone into Abby stuff when I was talking about the Workers' Liberty article about Bonapartism. There's a guy named Hal Draper who is like a Trotskyist writing an article about Karl Marx and Simon Bolivar. So I was going to share my screen about that. Do you want me to move to that, or you're back?
I'm back, and I think I figured out the problem.
Okay.
When I restarted my computer, remember from last week when we were having those issues, it didn't reconnect me to my Wi-Fi. So I've been like surfing on other people's Wi-Fi this whole time.
Well, that would explain it. So then
that would explain it. So I think it's over.
Okay, good.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Just before we get back in, Jacqueline's telling us she's going to call it a night. beginning to get a headache. So take care.
I hope you feel
Hopefully,
better.
yeah, take care of that headache.
And
So
hi,
yeah,
Sean. Sean's here. Hey, Sean.
yeah. Sean and
And
Fiddleford.
Fiddleford.
Yeah.
Hi, Fiddleford. All right, this is almost. I'm almost done torturing you. Okay, 3 more paragraphs. So I think I just left off on this about printing money to pay for endless state programs that unsurprisingly led to high rates of inflation. And I was saying as if the United States isn't endlessly printing money as well. So, and our inflation is up here too. So this is capitalism. So this is it socialism and capitalism, or is it the act of what you're doing that's causing inflation? Anyway, this is what they highlighted in the middle of the article to make sure they drove the point home. In this way, socialism run rampant, not cronyism, corruption, falling oil prices, or U.S. sanctions caused the crisis in Venezuela. Welfare programs that were supposed to help the poor actually increased the cost of living. A foreign currency control that aimed to reduce inflation only increased it and allowed for massive corruption, and nationalizations that should have given power to workers only left them unemployed and hungry. Corrupt regimes can certainly cause many problems, but without socialism, hyperinflation and widespread shortages are not usually among them. Moreover, even at today's lower oil prices, Venezuelan oil sells for 2 to 3 times as much as in 1999, adjusting for inflation. And the only U.S. sanction with some chance of affecting regular Venezuelans, the ban on oil imports has not been in effect for even 2 months, while inflation and shortages have plagued the country for years. So do not make excuses. As Venezuelans have learned over the past 20 years of socialism, free things come at a price. So he didn't say anything about the banks getting anything for free, getting that bailout. Mr. Daniel Martino, let's find out who he is. He's a Young Voices contributor and a Venezuelan expatriate studying economics in Indiana. So, sure, nothing to see here until we go to Young Voices, which is a think tank for right-wing propaganda. This is him. He's the founder of Young Voices, by the way.
Oh, of course. He looks like they all do. You know, clean cut. I'm such a clean guy, but usually they're dirty as fuck under all that.
That wants this proximity to whiteness so bad. Daniel was born and raised in Venezuela, where he went to high school and experienced the terrible consequences of socialism. In 2016, Daniel was awarded a full-time scholarship to attend Indiana, where he was currently a junior majoring in quantitative economics. During his 2 years in college, Daniel has worked part-time in the Office of International Affairs, presided his residential council, and founded the Model United Nations Study Group. He is currently an intern at Economic Policies for the 21st Century, part of the Manhattan Institute, which is where we got that horrible article from. And he got that intern through Charles Koch internship program, and that's where the ding, 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 ding comes in. Because the Koch brothers have been suing Venezuela for at least, it's been going on for like at least 10 years. And they are pissed about it. So they find this young lad to do their dirty work for them. And you're not fooling anyone, Daniel. Well, you're probably fooling some people, but you ain't fooling us. Hi, old man Barker.
Yeah,
good to see you.
Barker. I feel like it's been a little while since we've seen you in our chat. Whatever. Thanks for homonin.
Yep.
You notice how he's a grandson of Italian and Spanish immigrants too. That's a little fact that shouldn't be ignored either.
That's true. Very true. So then I went to, so if we want to, was this it? Yeah. Want to dispel this propaganda that I just read out to you guys.
From USA Today, no less. Interesting.
Yeah, let me make sure this is the one. Yes, this is it. So this lady makes this Facebook post and it goes viral. So I have to show you that first. I mean, it went viral. Can I make that bigger? Let's see. Oh, this way. Only 10 years of Venezuela was destroyed by socialism.
Mm.
Did
How
you
about in
know
only
that?
10 years Venezuela was destroyed? That's maybe more factual. But
Right.
it's still there. So people are very hyperbolic with words like collapse and destroy.
Mm-hmm. Scheme. All these, words to incite, trigger some type of feeling in you.
Schemes of regimes.
Yeah. So, okay. This is what stem. This is how where the article came from. It's gotten 49,000 shares. All right. So a Facebook post shared tens of thousands of times since 2019 and recently viral claims that in only a decade, Venezuela's once thriving economy was crippled by socialism. The post, which shows a photo of Venezuela on a map, claims that 60 years ago, the South American nation was twice as rich as China and 4 times as rich as Japan. It says it had the 4th wealthiest economy in the world and the most thriving country in Latin America. It further claims that Venezuela's currency was worth the most. That's a typo there. Second only to the US dollar. It also says it had a thriving healthcare system. But all of that washed away in only a decade due to socialism. The post first shared by Facebook user, whoever she is. She didn't respond to a message seeking comment on where she found her information about Venezuela. So let's get into it.
Yeah. Have a good one,
Bye,
Antediluvian.
Antediluvian.
See you.
See you on the other side.
Thanks for watching.
Good time to say don't forget to like, share, and subscribe before I go back to the root of the country's success and demise, which is oil. It's true that Venezuela once had a thriving economy that fell to deep poverty, but there's more to it than just a simple explanation of socialism, Stephen Morris explained. Morris is a professor at Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, where he teaches Latin American studies and is now researching corruption in the National Autonomous University of Mexico in Mexico City. The post is particularly correct on the facts, but simplifies things a bit in its conclusion for obvious political purposes, he said. Obviously. In the 1970s, the country experienced a healthy economy because of its success with oil. Venezuela's petroleum reserves are recognized as the largest in the world. By the end of 2019, BP's review of world energy estimated the country had a whopping 303 million barrels of oil. And if you just give me a moment, I'd like to show you visually what that looks like. All right. So visually, can I close this? Get out of the way. There we go. So this is a visual map of countries with the largest proven oil reserves. Venezuela has 303 billion barrels, the largest in the world.
Wow.
United States only has 74. Now, with that being said, that's oil. That's oil reserves, okay, which we cannot. We have to separate that from oil production, which I'll show you here in a visual manner as well. So, who produces the most oil? The U.S. So we only have 74 million barrels, but we're the number one producer besides other, and other is a conglomerate of other. I wonder, can I click on this and it'll tell me who? Maybe not.
Is that
We're
OPEC or
about to
something?
find out. Yeah, no, it doesn't. I can't click on it and it gives me who other is. Maybe it's down here somewhere. Could find what other means. Yeah, it just says others right here.
Yeah, that's
So
not
we don't
very.
know who other is.
Yeah, that's not very helpful.
I know. Wondering if I do a, yeah, they don't tell you. That's not very helpful at all. But it does give you an idea of the fact that the U.S. produces the most oil as a country in and of itself.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I'll go back to the article now. This is it. Robert says it wasn't socialism, it was the president taking over their version of our Federal Reserve.
Interesting. Yeah, the Federal Reserve was a terrible idea. I don't know if any other countries decided to imitate that, but it's something that needs to be taken over. But then, like, if the U.S. ever took over their Federal Reserve, there would be a whole lot of a violent backlash from the capitalists that installed that system.
Say it again for the people in the back. All right, so they had a whopping 303 barrel in 2019. Looks like they still do. Um, by building an economy on the success of oil prices, it distorts everything else, Morris said. When the price of oil goes high, the country does well. When the price of oil collapses, like it did in 2008, everything goes to shit, goes to hell. Okay, so that guy Daniel never, as we mentioned, never mentioned what was going on in 2008. And we see here that Venezuela they put all their eggs in one basket, as the old folks would say. And so when oil barrels of oil skyrocketed, it hurt their economy. So the thriving oil reserve caused the country to put all of its eggs. Oh, I just said that. All of its eggs in one basket. It focused mostly on oil production, while other industries have seen less interest, like agriculture. And we had talked about how Venezuela imports um, more agricultural products than it produces. So that's an issue that would also contribute to this. So anyway, it focused mostly on oil production, while other industries have seen less interest, like agriculture, which has been the case historically, Moore said. In economics, this is known as Dutch disease. Have you ever heard of Dutch disease?
No, but that's an interesting term. I
I'm
like
going to
how
pull it up for you.
it's like got
It
a
comes from the
colonial.
Netherlands or something.
Yeah, well, it's like it's interesting. It's kind of implying that colonial economics are a disease, and I appreciate that metaphor.
So Dutch disease, let me see if I can make that bigger. I found, like, researching for this, I found everything so fascinating. All right, Dutch disease is an economic phenomenon where large influxes of foreign currency from a booming natural resource sector lead to an appreciation of the country's currency, making its non-resource exports less competitive and hindering the development of other sectors, especially manufacturing. This paradox, where good news like resource discoveries can harm a broader economy, results in deindustrialization and economic stagnation, making economies overly dependent on the volatile commodity market.
Hmm.
And I think it comes from this happened in the Netherlands. That's where they coined the term originally. So how Dutch disease works. Number one, foreign currency inflow. A country experiences a sudden increase in foreign currency, often from a major discovery of natural resources like gas or oil. Number two, increased demand for domestic currency. The influx of foreign currency is converted into the domestic currency, increasing its demand. Number three, currency appreciation. The increased demand causes domestic currency to appreciate in value. And then number four, loss of competitiveness. A stronger currency makes a country's manufactured goods and other non-resource exports more expensive for foreign buyers, decreasing their competitiveness.
And that's what I
Number
was
five.
mentioning about the
Go ahead.
U.S. That's what I was mentioning about the U.S.'s dilemma of trying to increase their domestic manufacture competitiveness. It is in direct conflict with their need to keep the U.S. dollar strong. So that's not an opinion as much as it is an economic fact.
Very good. Hi, Christopher. And then, okay, number five. So after you lose your competitiveness, then there's a decline of non-resource sectors. As the non-resource sector becomes less competitive, it shrinks, leading to job losses and deindustrialization. Number six, increased demand for non-tradable goods. Consumers and businesses spend their newfound wealth on domestic goods and services that are not exported, which are non-tradable goods, driving up prices and wages in those sectors. And then lastly, economic stagnation. Number seven, the economy becomes overly reliant on the resource sector, making it vulnerable to fluctuations in commodity prices and hindering diversification and long-term growth. And so that's what happened to them in 2008, and they haven't quite been able to recover. And that lawsuit from the Koch brothers isn't helping at all either. But here's the origin I was telling you about. The term originated from the Netherlands experience in the 1960s when the discovery of natural gas in the North Sea led to a decline in its manufacturing sector. So that's that. Yeah. I guess I can leave this for another day, the mitigation strategies. Oh, there's only three. Might as well just get through it. Dutch disease is a specific aspect of the broader resource curse, where abundant natural resources can lead to poor economic performance and instability. So mitigations,
as in
Go ahead.
the resource curse, as in America's about like, oh, you found a new gold reserve, you found a new oil reserve. Well, it looks like America's about to bring you some democracy.
Well, that's what's going on now, but it's under the guise of drugs, because they had to find some excuse, and drugs is their excuse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was Mexico bringing in all the drugs, but now it's Venezuela, so whatever. So here are the mitigation strategies to avoid Dutch disease. And no shit, diversify the economy. I mean, if you put all your eggs in one basket, what do you think is going to happen? So invest revenues in other sectors to build a more diversified economy. Smooth spending. Avoid rapid domestic spending of resource revenues by investing abroad or in import-heavy projects. Support lagging sectors. Provide subsidies or tariffs to bolster domestic non-resource industries. So there you have it. So I'm going to get back to what we were saying. All right, so not socialism, Dutch disease. Something that could have been avoided if they simply diversified their economy a little better and not relied on their oil to prop up their country.
Well, this
So
is
the
where
country's
the availability of other resources is the nuance of that. Simply, all they have to do is diversify their economy. Well, the tricky part about that is if there's only a certain amount of, like, a finite availability of resources within a nation, and there's strength and weaknesses to what they have available domestically. So there's only so much of a pivot away from oil that they can do, but they do have to diversify as much as possible, right? Especially in agriculture.
Yes, that's I think one of their biggest issues is importing agriculture products more than they produce. That's like, and then when America puts sanctions on you, what do you think they're gonna? How do you think they're gonna sanction you?
Mm-hmm.
It's very cruel. They're gonna sanction, the things that you need to survive, which is food.
Right. Now, this is where climate change is an important factor of the discussion that cannot be left out. You want to talk about the problems of an economy relying on oil, which is exacerbating the climate crisis. And then you need to pivot to agricultural manufacture, which is increasingly difficult because of the climate crisis getting worse. So you may not, if you've made the climate crisis bad enough, if it happens to be affecting your nation in particular, because of its location in the world, you may want to increase the agricultural spending, but it might be not nearly profitable enough, in a sense, to, I guess, too little too late, right? Had we made the pivots earlier, it would be a lot less expensive, but this is where we're at. So
This is where we're at. The country's economic standing fell when oil prices began dropping in the 1980s. While growth was restored and the economy leveled out, it left poverty in its wake, Morris said. The rise of Chavez in the 1990s. He went on to be the elected president. He made a coup attempt to overthrow President Carlos Andres Perez, who was later impeached. Then Chavez was imprisoned for his coup attempt. During that and a subsequent one, over 100 people died. But he came back strong, and although Venezuela was more stable at the time of the attempted coup than it is today, things weren't stellar. If they were, Maurice argued, why did they vote Chavez to the highest office in the nation in the first place, effectively throwing out the political landscape and ushering in a Venezuelan form of socialism? Before Chavez's election, Venezuela was one of the few countries in Latin America considered to be a democracy when other countries had military rule, Moore said. But still, Venezuelans weren't happy with their current system and voted in Chavez in 1998.
That part, I just want to make a brief comment. It's very disingenuous for them to they always make these claims that a country is the only democracy in this region or whatever, when the period of history they're referring to is when they had installed their you got to look at how many coups Venezuela's had before Hugo Chavez had his coup. It's just like there's a lot of these countries that they've had like 100 coups. I should have looked it up. Maybe I'll do that right now. But there have been a lot of fascists that have decided to take over the country. And when the socialists do the coup, it's because they are forced to, because that's the only way to get the power back from the people who couped them. So it's a vicious cycle.
The capitalism of the period really did not serve the masses, resulting in social unrest and the rise of Chavez. Chavez launched the Bolivarian, I don't know why that word, and Bonapartism. I don't know why I have such a hard time with those two words. Okay, Chavez launched the Bolivarian Revolution, which performed missions and social programs for the country. These programs, which Daniel DeMarti, whatever his name is, were like, he was coining them welfare programs. Scary stuff. Okay, these programs, which aimed to reduce poverty, were funded by money earned from the country's oil trade. They pulled some people out of poverty and began closing the gap of inequality. The economy was doing well, Morris said. Chavez was a consequence of the system, he said. He was extremely popular, but it wasn't sustainable. The missions had a dark underbelly. In the years that followed, Chavez seized individual wealth, including land and companies, but his supporters in positions of power and gave the military broad control. So I cannot confirm or deny that statement right there. Although it may seem sinister. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that one of the things that should be acknowledged about Chavez is like Bolivar, where he made promises to take land from the wealthy landowners and give it to the poor. But if we analyze what actually happened, I don't think he really fulfilled that promise for whatever reason. Maybe it was literally just impossible for him to deliver. But giving the military broad control, that is what I'm kind of mentioning, the contradiction of Bolivarianism. The military requires a broad control of their society, and it always has, because they have this Bolivarian tendency that's like impossible to. It's been made such a part of their national identity that it's really difficult for them to rise to power without like flirting with this military control. So
interesting. I just wanted to say shout out to welcome, and shout out to the masked man. Welcome. I don't know where you came from, but I'm sure glad you're here. And this is what I'm just going to say what they had to say since they're new to the group. I wanted to give them.
Well, I didn't see that comment. Nice to meet you.
The comment says Venezuela's primary problem is corrupt and dysfunctional government institutions, a legacy of their own colonial history, a vicious cycle indeed. So I don't know what to say to that other than I'm just reading your comment.
Well, I think
we're going to discuss this earlier, but go ahead.
As far as the legacy of their colonial history, I think that's an important, and the focus on the addiction to the oil being the savior of their economy. If you actually granted the indigenous communities more sovereignty over the decisions what to do with their land, they would most likely decide the more ecological thing to do, as opposed to economic necessity, would be to leave the oil in the ground, in a sense. I was going to say, I kind of forgot, but Christopher Career had some good comments about this. That's the whole thing, right? If you give the indigenous their control over their own nation, they won't want to be so extractive with the resources. And the colonial members of the society, they have a completely different interpretation of what's necessary for the nation. They feel we have to harm the ecology so that we can provide prosperity to the people. But by damaging the land, you actually, in long term, you take away from prosperity.
See what Wolfie says? Future generations will need that oil. Leave it in the ground.
It's a hard thing to sell, though, to the oligarchs that are typically...
Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, it was one more. I'm sorry. It was one more. I think it was... okay, here it is. Kieran, Venezuela has had 3 major issues. Chavista governments responsible for just the one that was failure to diversify an oil-dependent economy. The other 2, lack of agriculture and U.S. sanctions. Okay, so that's basically what we've been talking about. So yeah, I'm going to get back to the article, and then I'll just get back to it. Okay, although it may seem sinister, broad military control isn't unusual in Latin American countries, Morris said. The military does a lot more on the groundwork I'll start over. The military does a lot more on the groundwork there than Americans are used to seeing, he said. The military is often used for disaster relief and food distribution. Latin Americans tend to trust the military more than government leaders, Morris said, so politicians rely on the military to build trust. But further, according to Foreign Policy magazine, Chavez and those he appointed to run Venezuela's oil monopoly knew little about the nation's biggest industry. I found this quite interesting, because even if you do know little about it, isn't that what your experts are for? Anyway, he was ignorant about everything to do with oil, everything to do with geology, engineering, and economics of oil. Pedro Burelli, a former Petroleus de Venezuela, my Spanish is horrible, board member, told the magazine. His was a completely encyclopedic ignorance. In 2010, ahead of an upcoming election, and as the global price of oil fell, Chavez announced he was decreasing the value of the bolivar, the nation's currency. It was worth more than the US dollar, but dropped after Chavez's decision, then continued to plummet. So, like, some of these things, that has nothing to do with socialism. That's like government decision making.
Well, as far as what it might have to do with socialism, it has to do with the challenges of operating a socialist policy within the global capitalist economy. So that's
Mm.
always the challenge that we have. It is an uphill battle, and it is very easy for capitalists to point to the decisions that we're forced to make in order to avoid the worst kinds of damage from the global economy, like with a crash in the oil price, where that's a crash for everyone around the world. It's not just isolated to Venezuela. So they're just reacting to the market in a sense,
That's a really good point.
and then
That's a good
you
point.
get it's used as an as something as like a gotcha point, like socialist economy has to manipulate their currency in order to survive, or whatever, right? They can't compete with us capitalists. Blah blah blah.
That reminds me of how how you'll see like right wing people on social media or whatever take a picture of someone who has like they might have something about a socialism sticker on their car or something, but then they have an iPhone or they have things that you need to survive in this capitalist society, and they're like, oh, why are you benefiting from capitalist things? And it's like, okay, so I still have to live in this capitalist society. That doesn't mean I agree with capitalism. That means I'm doing what I have to do to survive capitalism. It doesn't mean I have to promote it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of the same concept, right?
Yep, it's just a disingenuous
Argument.
use of facts. We'll only use this one, cherry pick the fact, and then ignore all the other factors. So,
Right. So this move of reducing the, I'm sorry, what was it?
reducing the currency.
Decreasing the value of the bolivar. That move caused even more inflation, as experts warned it would, plunging the country into a spiral from which it has been unable to climb out of over the last decade. Today, the bolivar is practically worthless because of hyperinflation that has crippled the economy. Now, let me go back to when this was written. When they say today is 2020, so keep that in mind. Because their economy is doing better now. So here I am. All right. After Chavez died, Nicolas Maduro was elected in 2013. Problems only grew under him: increased poverty, food shortages, and a mass exodus of Venezuelans fleeing the country. Maduro rewrote the country's constitution, moving the election, and attempted to ban groups of people from voting. Can I go back to this part real quick? Because we should note that this mass exodus of Venezuelans, I would really like to know which is Venezuelans like that dude. So this is 2013. So it's the well-to-do Venezuelans, like how the Cubans, all the white Cubans, fled Cuba. It's kind of the same concept. And now, I wonder what's going to happen to Mr. Daniel now that the Supreme Court removed the temporary protection of Venezuelans and said that the United States can now deport 350,000 Venezuelans back to Venezuela. So I wonder what that does for his status. But he's probably protected because of the Koch brothers, He won't be affected by that.
And you just highlighted that it says problems only grew under him. Those kinds of statements are typically like not quite accurate. There most definitely problems did continue to grow under him, but there were some.
Hmm?
It's like it's got to get worse before it gets better. Sometimes there are some
Enjoy.
there are some likely some effective decisions that his administration made that didn't produce immediate gains, but were long-term measures that did eventually pull the economy out of crisis. But if you're trying to do apply your analysis in only this particular time frame, you won't really be able to validate if it was a success or not. So
Hmm. Yep. So Maduro rewrote the country's constitution, moved the election, and attempted to ban groups of people from voting. Last year, his election win was contested by a political rival who attempted to overthrow Maduro's presidency, which they found fraudulent. So you said last year, because this was in 2020. 2020 is when they had that coup. So I'm wondering what they're. So I guess they tried to overthrow him in 2019, and that's why they wanted to have the coup in 2020. Maybe that's what's happening here. So the effort was backed by the United States, but has been a stalemate for the past year. I have some information on that coup too. Whatever problems we see in Latin America and Venezuela, we have to understand those in historical context. Chavez didn't come out of nowhere. He was a product of a problem Venezuela was facing in the 80s and 90s. Well, so was Trump. Trump didn't come out of nowhere. He was a product of the problems we were facing because of neoliberalism in the United States.
well, and the problems from the 1980s and 90s, that's important to mention. The switching from the gold standard in the 1970s, it took a little while, but there was a whole bunch of global crises that were occurring in the 80s because of all this adjustment to, is it called the Bretton Woods system? This like fiat currency instead of gold as the global reserve. Like that really is an important thing to understand what was causing these troubles for these nations, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I wanted before I move on, because this comment is getting so far back there. If I don't say it now, we'll probably lose it and won't be able to find it. So Kieran says, with Cuba, Venezuela will not kneel to U.S. empire. Live on knees, proletarian revolutionaries rather die on their feet.
Right. I had
So, and then Sean says, on my feet it is then.
yeah. I think, I don't know if Fiddleford's still here. He shared an article from, I think it's from the official outlet of the Cuban Communist Party, and it's called For Venezuela, All the Solidarity of Cuba. So the Bolivarian Revolution prepares to defend its national sovereignty. So they are in full support. It says, the Bolivarian and Chavista revolution, led by President Nicolas Maduro, can count on all the solidarity and support of Cuba, said the first secretary of the Central Committee of the party and president of the Republic, Miguel Diaz-Canel Bermudez. So when we stand together, we are much stronger, right?
Take that. All right, so should I go back to life?
Well, I think
Back
the masked
to
man had some interesting
reality.
comments. Sorry, just
Oh,
he's
okay,
not
go
able
ahead.
to share a link. He was trying to share a link with us, but he wasn't able to because he doesn't have a wrench. So I'm not sure if you remember how to do that. But if you want to be a good faith viewer and supporter, I'll be happy to give you a wrench there, right? He's saying you guys might want to refer to the Nobel Prize winning research in economics, which proved a causal chain from institutions to prosperity, focusing on former colonies as a laboratory.
What does he mean he can't share a link because he doesn't have a wrench? Anybody could put a link in the chat.
I guess maybe we have to look at our settings. If there's something that we need to change I think he tried to just share it and it didn't come through.
The masked man. Can you tell us how you found us? I'm curious. I'm just curious.
It's always good to know. He also
It's always
says
good to know.
and yes, it's got everything to do. Oh, sorry. with state control of the economy. The colonial institutions in Venezuela were designed for the purpose of resource expropriation and to benefit the ruling class. So this is where it's important to analyze the Bolivarian revolution from like the 1820s or whatever. It was a liberal bourgeois revolution. What it ended up doing was entrenching the ruling class ability to expropriate resources at the expense that were not, like as Christopher Career is pointing out, they're taking resources that they're stealing resources that never belong to them. They create a legal fiction that says that these are our resources now. So, yeah.
Oh, interesting. He says it was recommended to him in his feed, maybe because he watches economic videos. That's interesting.
Nice. So we're not totally
Well,
shadow banned yet.
no, I think it's because we're so small that nobody cares.
Well, also, I don't think
Speaking of
we've
which, the Masked Man, if you subscribe, that'd be awesome.
yeah, nice. But I think maybe we also haven't been getting into certain things like the Palestine issue as much lately, which is not
Which would
that
definitely
thing.
get you.
We need to cover
Okay.
that stuff a bit. But if the more that we do, as you can see, the harder it is to actually be seen. So that's something to navigate.
Yep. Yep. Bye, Mousy.
Yeah. Have a good night, Mouse.
Have a good night. Thank you for stopping in. See you next time.
And good
And
luck with the tour
Max
in
Man's
Europe.
getting welcome.
He
Oh
was
yeah,
saying
he's
that,
going to Europe.
yeah, maybe if they put on Paris and was it London or something on the tour?
Oh,
But yeah, sounds like really
before
good
you
history.
go, because I think we have a banner of your band camp. I think. Can you just put it up real quick what your band cap is so we could put it on the screen for everybody? I could have swore we had a banner.
I guess not anymore. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what
Sorry.
happened. Okay, yeah, put it in the comments for us, please, before you leave. All right, so let me get back to it. So the poverty crisis. According to the United Nations, Venezuela produces only 30% of its food supply. Historically, this has been a problem in Venezuela, Morris said. That was much more exasperated under Chavez, even though the large reliance on importing food existed before him. This has led to a hunger crisis, which has grown as inflation has surged. In April, Maduro fixed the price of certain food staples like butter or eggs. They now cost more than a typical monthly salary, Reuters reported, which is equal to about $2. It's not uncommon for governments to have food price control, Mars said, but it was much more common in Latin America decades ago than it is today. So it says it's estimated that 87% of people living in Venezuela are impoverished, while 61% of the country's population live in extreme poverty, according to the annals of global
Annals.
health.
Pardon. Annals of global
I
history.
know I was being
Health.
funny. I was being funny because it feels like they kind of pulled that out of their ass a little bit.
Butt joke, yay.
I know.
Always
We
gotta
we
take,
can't take ourselves too seriously around here. We gotta have a fart joke every now and again.
or you end up like me or whatever without a sense of humor.
A 2006 study estimated that 75% of the population studied and experienced involuntary weight loss. And just so you guys know, I looked it up. It says there's about 20% of Americans in extreme poverty. Just to give you an idea here. But anyway, the limited food resources has created a black market for food. If you put politics aside, people are suffering. The bottom line is the people are the ones who are suffering considerably. The sympathy has to lie with the Venezuelan people. Yes, it does. And the economy historically. According to Foreign Policy magazine, Venezuela was considered rich in the early 1960s. It produced more than 10% of the world's crude and had a per capita GDP many times bigger than of its neighbors, Brazil and Colombia, and not far behind that of the United States. And it's not just any crude, it's heavy crude. So there are different types of crude, right? And the heavy crude is the most desirable. And Venezuela has a lot of it. So, okay, but Venezuela's economy wasn't better than China's or Japan's in the 60s. The country's GDP shows, measured in current US dollars, Venezuela's GDP was 7.8 billion, China's was 59.7 billion, and Japan's was 44.3 billion in 1960. So this is getting back to that meme that I showed you guys. That
the
meme,
claim that he was doing
the
that they were
claim,
doing better in
yes,
the 60s, and that's like a really gross,
that
really,
claim.
it's a very gross exaggeration. Like they're at least 3 times less successful than Japan, and like I'm not good with the math, whatever, but 7.8 billion goes into 56 billion or whatever it was. How many times? Because China, it sounds like China's economy is like 5 times bigger than them in the 1960s, but you got the fucking balls to go around claiming that Venezuela was 2 times richer than China when it was 5 times poorer.
And 4 times richer than Japan.
Yeah, when it's literally the opposite way.
When
Yeah.
it's the opposite, yes.
They will tell you black is
Exactly.
white, white is black, and then yeah.
Uh-huh. Venezuela wasn't ranked 4th best in the best economy in the world either. However, Morris said it did surpass China and Japan per capita income at that time. So, distorting the truth, basically. The Post relies on picking and choosing what parts of Venezuela's history to latch on to and avoid. The same thing with that article from that guy, the Venezuelan expatriate from the Manhattan Institute. It overlooks the nuanced history of the country. By latching on to socialist policies as the root of the country's failing economy is simplifying the argument greatly. It's like someone taking the 1928 to 1938 period in the United States and saying capitalism is a failure.
See, that actually, that part of, if you scroll up a bit, the paragraph you just read, that's a good.
Yeah, this
No,
one.
the one just before that one. It's a good way for me to reiterate my point about if it's not helpful to socialists to do the exact same thing. Like we're going to criticize fascists and capitalists for overlooking the nuanced history of a country so that they can make a limited hangout of an argument. We are not making ourselves look good when we are guilty of the same thing, but picking and choosing what part of Venezuela's history to play up as far as Bolivarianism and downplaying what's controversial or like it's just like factually incorrect the way that they describe it as a positive force when it was it depossessed a lot of people. Like when they promised the slaves and the indigenous like liberation, they were actually dispossessed of even more land after the so-called liberation. So we can't simplify the history to make ourselves look good, or we actually look bad.
Yep, you're basically saying let's call a spade a spade.
Exactly.
Yep, because we're not doing ourselves any favor. If we're here to try to find solutions, we're not doing ourselves any favors cherry picking what parts of history that fit our narrative, right?
Yeah.
Because we could be missing something. You could be taking something that like doesn't fit your narrative, but it could be a good learning tool to make sure you don't do it again.
Exactly.
And it's okay to say that when you're explaining it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their ruling is that meme. Oh, by the way, Kieran says manufacturing consent, bourgeois bullshit, propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
So we rate this claim partly false because parts of it were not supported by our research. The meme is misleading in its simplicity. It is true Venezuela has socialist programs, but they were not entirely responsible for the country's economic collapse. The nation's strong ties to its oil industry led to great success, then great failure. Venezuela's demise did not occur just in the last decade, but has its roots in the Hugo Chavez era, which started in the 1990s and before. And while Venezuela was more successful per capita than China and Japan in 1960, its GDP and economic ranking as of 1960 are incorrect in the meme. And thank you for getting through that with me, everybody, because I know I've been talking and yapping for a while now. So I appreciate you
We could have
for
gotten
listening.
it maybe sooner had I not interrupted so many times. But
No, that's good because we had to discuss it. What's going on?
what does
We
great
had
success
to
followed by great
discuss it.
failure sound like? That sounds like boom and bust to me. That sounds like a capitalist contradiction, not a communist one.
Yeah, and and it doesn't help. Let's see if I can share this. Okay, so the Koch brothers had I don't know the all of the language for it, but the Koch brothers put, I think, on this in the ocean, a refinery. I think that's the name for it, refinery.
So they got their stuff expropriated,
in the
nationalized. And they want it back.
Yes, they got their stuff nationalized, and then so they sued. They sued for their investment, $49 million. I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to torture you with that. Okay, that was but it's good to note like the year. That's 2017. Okay, that's when it first happened. So they're still dealing with this. They haven't got any money yet, but I'm sure that's going to be a huge setback for them because here we go, share this one. So this is 2022. So they were awarded the decision was upheld with the ICSID. I can't remember what
forget
that means, but I'm
International
going
Court
to look it
of
up real quick.
This is we should all familiarize ourselves with this International Court of Settlements in whatever it's totally captured by the capitalists there, and then nations are supposed to go to this court to settle their economic lawsuits and whatnot, and the courts deciding what's right and wrong are heavily biased towards industry business owners.
Yes, ICSID stands for the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes.
Exactly, yeah. I was learning about them because this thing with the Koch lawsuit reminds me of the situation in Honduras with Prospera, where they robbed the country of their resources, and then they sue the country for the resources that they stole. So go fuck yourself, Koch brothers, wherever. Rest in hell or whatever. Don't rest ever. Yeah.
Don't rest ever. Yes. I'm trying to. I didn't get a chance to. So that was in. Hold on. I did this backwards. I apologize. So they're basically going back and forth, and the Koch brothers hasn't been able to get any of their money back yet. So that was in 2022. I meant to say like in 2021, Venezuela rebukes they won the suit. So then they went to the ISC. You know the acronym. We just talked about it. So Venezuela won against them, and then they went to this other court, which deemed the Koch brothers were correct, and then now they're doing this. Okay, so the group that is in dispute is the Citgo Petroleum Corporation. That is the group in dispute. So I just pulled this up so you could see all these different articles about. Now they're trying to do an auction for Citgo, and there's this group called Elliott Investment Management who just made. You can see right here, August 26, 2025. They just made the highest bid on for the parent of Venezuelan-owned refiner Citgo Petroleum. So this is going to go on for a while. And then here's this one. Gold Reserve moves to have rival Elliott bid for Citgo parent disqualified. So they're fighting over this land, or well, not land, but this company.
The rights. Yeah.
The rights to this company. Yes. So that's going to be coming down the pipeline, Venezuela. So you might want to get your other shit in order, because there's a possibility you're going to have to, I don't know, build your own refinery, or maybe they take over the refinery, but you put a tariff on the oil or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Looks like we got another new viewer.
We got another new person. We need like a little,
we need some kind
of cowbell or something.
Yeah. We'll look into it. Divine Rorosita 333. Nice to meet you. I appreciate your curiosity, comprehension, research, and sharing of thoughts on different ideologies. I look forward towards learning more from your platform.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share then. And how did you find us? I'm very curious. I'm very, very curious how you found us. So that's enough of that. Like, we talked about their economy, their socialist economy. Oh, I think it was one more thing about their economy. They're on the upswing, actually.
Yeah, that's useful to know. Are they suffering?
I did want to share this.
Is their economy?
I'm going to look for it. I did want to share. They said it was up 9%.
Yeah, good.
But I wanted to kind of share this
from China and Russia and whatnot. They're on the right side of history, and they're actually getting prosperity from it. And the U.S. says that's not allowed.
Right. So they don't really export much. And we already talked about this, about their economy, how they're importing more. So scrap iron, things that are derived from their crude, like first of all, the crude petroleum coke, and then the nitrogen. I don't know if you can see that, it's kind of small. Nitrogenous fertilizers, which is a product of the crude as well. The most common, well, you see that from I don't need to read that. You can see that from the visual, where the most common exports go to. I just wanted to share that. It's not something we need to harp on. And then I think this was it. Oh, here it is. Venezuela economy grew over 9% in 2024. This article is from January 2025. So hopefully things are going to be looking up for them. And that's why I guess the sanctions aren't working well enough. So now the United States has to complain about drugs coming, or make an excuse so they can invade.
9% for anyone who's not too familiar is actually really good growth for a nation in a year. So that's impressive.
Okay, so now we need to talk about what else do we have. So I could tell you what I have, and then we could decide how we're gonna move forward. Because I didn't know if anybody wanted to like revisit the 2020 coup, so I had a little video on that. Just to refresh people's memories on how that coup came about, and what the United States. Oh, I need to change this out. There we go. The United States' involvement in that coup, and the what I guess they call them privatized militias. It was one privatized militia that was used for the coup. So if you guys want to see that, just let me know in the chat. I'll play it. And then also, I just have a few things about also dealing with the coup. How technically we aren't trying to coup them, but we're trying to invade them under the guise of freeing. No, not under the guise of democracy. We're not even playing that joke this time. It's under the protection of American citizens from drugs. Like they give a damn. I mean,
Yeah.
the Iran
Well,
Contra scandal
it,
taught you that. They don't care. The opioid scandal taught you that. Taught you that. They don't care. Why do you think we were in Afghanistan? Ugh, Afghanistan. Drugs. But
yeah,
anyway, yeah,
they're
I
still
could
trying to
play it or
install. They're still trying to install a new leader, whether it's technically a coup or not. They're still trying to do the same thing, right? Install the leader they prefer. So
yes. And lastly, we don't have to spend too much time on it, but this is a Golden Monarch video. We could actually play it on the way out if I just like set up some information about it or whatever. But it is how they are trying to bring a national Bitcoin reserve to Venezuela.
mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool. And keep
That's
an
not
eye out.
suspicious.
Let's keep an eye out for this Maria Corino Machado, who is potentially going to be the candidate that they're hoping to install.
Mm-hmm.
Golden Monarch called it, so we're all kind of watching and waiting to see if he's. But we don't want to. We hope he's wrong because we don't want to see this woman in power. But if she is, you heard it from Golden Monarch first. So.
And I really want to play it because you could see the politician in her, like the way she's talking. You could absolutely see what's coming down the pipeline. But I digress. You had some things you wanted to show before we go into that.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit. We're 2.5 hours in, so it looks like we're going for 3 hours tonight. But I had mentioned the myth of Simon Bolivar's cult of personality was instantiated by the liberals, and I wanted to fulfill my promise to cover that. So I'll just do
And,
it
and for
briefly, and
and for those who came late, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had. See, we could have did that then while I was fresh on everybody's mind. So for those who came later, do you want to just give a brief introduction of why you're presenting this, who Simon
right.
Bolivar is, and
Yes, try and recap a bit what
yeah,
I.
recap it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Let me see. I gotta switch. There we go. So it's a little bit tricky to
To recap,
remember. Yeah, to
I'm
recap everything.
sorry.
I'll do what I can. But so when we're talking about Venezuela and so like Venezuelan socialism and everything, there's a whole lot of confusion as to whether like is this nation really socialist or like in the American, like as we were seeing from Fox News and whatnot, the American tendency from the capitalist is to try and distort the perception of Venezuelan socialism to make you think that it's not true socialism. But then as communists, if that's, I'm not sure what the viewers may be, but we here try to be communists. So to have a communist understanding of Venezuela, you have to
Or
try and appreciate
socialist.
or socialist in general. Yes, that's a funny nuance, a whole nother rabbit hole. But to understand what's really going on there, you have to kind of get delving into the historical materialism, whatever. You have to go looking into um, not just what people say is happening, but what really happened and whatnot. And so Simon Bolivar was an extremely important figure in the history of these nations. Some argue that without his existence and his actions, that these nations may never actually have earned their independence. That would be something we'll never know because it's counterfactual to try and explore what would have happened had he not been there, but he was there, so we'll never know. So I've just it seems that there is a cult of personality that has been cultivated around this historical figure. He did achieve a national liberation. He went and fought against the Spanish. He betrayed the Spanish, as the video that we watched at the beginning mentioned. So in that sense, he's not an entirely terrible person, right? He did some things that we might consider positive looking back, in that like the colonial domination of South America from Spain and Portugal is not a positive development, and having their power overthrown is in general an improvement of the circumstances of the people in that region. However, the important nuance to recognize is that Simon Bolivar himself is not an indigenous from South America. He was one of the uh, Spanish American kind of white descendants, or the Criollos, what they call them, right? The wealthy colonizer landowners, right? So he went back to Europe to get all educated and everything. He became a Freemason and all this. So there is a whole lot of historical details and nuance to be understood when viewing a character like this. And so why I wanted to mention this cult of personality is that there's a similar kind of problem that tends to happen with other socialist projects, like the Soviet Union with Joseph Stalin. So there seems to be a tendency for socialists and communists to maybe find some pragmatic value in a cult of personality, or they may deny that the cult of personality exists while receiving the benefits from it. So this is where we don't do ourselves any favors by trying to be a little too Machiavellian with trying to achieve our goals through real politic. You know, we don't want to be idealists, but we can't become unprincipled by just supporting whatever violent actions to acquire our the means to our end. You know, there's a whole lot of ethical dilemmas that we need to sort through, right? So that was a bit long-winded. I hope that was an effective recap. So this article is from a website called Archide, ARCHYDE.com. Never heard of it, but we'll take a look at what they have to say, and we'll see what we think about them.
Can you make it bigger?
Yep.
So while you're doing that, Nina had mentioned like a while back that she was on her way, but I guess she never made it, unfortunately.
That's
so
all good. Maybe she can.
Yeah,
catch on.
you're Miss Janina. So I am going to put up an invite to our Discord for people in the chat if you haven't joined already, since we have some new people. Thought that would be
good opportunity.
To do.
Yeah. Please join our
We'd
Discord.
love to see you there. And then those videos that you are putting in YouTube right now in the comments, you can put it in the Discord. There's a area for videos. Because Kieran, I keep saying it different every time, because I just don't know how to say it. So there is, I looked that up, what you put in there on YouTube, and I couldn't find it. So if you could put it in the Discord, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, take it away, Michael.
Okay, here we go. So The Cult of Simon Bolivar is part of the Venezuelan imagination by Alexandra Hartman, editor-in-chief, from July 24th, 2024. The master and doctor in history analyzes for the newspaper the use of the figure and legacy of the liberator 238 years after his birth throughout the history of Venezuela. Bolivarianism did not subside under democratic governments. On the contrary, it continued to deepen, because Bolivarianism is something of an authoritarian tendency, so it is a bit ironic for it to have deepened under democratic governments. But this is where the word democratic is often heavily caveated. Pardon me. So this text was originally published on July 24th, 2021. On December 17th, 1830, Simon Bolivar died at the age of 47. That day, he suffered a cardiorespiratory arrest. That's a kind of not particularly relevant detail. Myths abound around the figure of Simon Bolivar, the liberator. It is no coincidence for more than 150 years, the cult of his image has been, perhaps, state policy. From the government of Antonio Guzman Blanco, through authoritarian regimes in the democratic era to Chavezism, everyone else calls it Chavismo, whatever. With different nuances, the alteration of historical memory has resulted in two currents: those who exalt his legacy and those who deny his historical importance. This is kind of like a black and white fallacy. What we are trying to do is to not be either one of these over hasty generalization categories. We're not trying to exalt his legacy, and we're not trying to deny his historical importance. We're trying to elucidate his historical nuance.
Am I going to trigger you if you read this comment on the screen?
Sure. Bolivar was probably into eugenics also. No, not true. I saw those and I was gonna. He's a Spaniard and a Freemason, and he was probably into eugenics also. I agree. As far as what I was mentioning about, he wanted to liberate people, but then the people he so-called liberated, he didn't feel were developed enough or educated enough to be trusted with their own liberation. So this is a kind of eugenic tendency.
Where have we heard those things before?
Yeah. Recurring theme much, So thank you for that comment, Rondo. And good to see you. I don't know if I said hello to you. So this is how he explains it in the newspaper. Rafael Arraez Lucha, a member of the Venezuelan Academy of Language, lawyer, poet, teacher, and doctor in history. Bolivarianism did not subside. We already read that line. It continued to deepen under democratic governments. The cult of Bolivar is almost a factor in the Venezuelan collective imagination. I would not dare to say that it is exclusive to military regimes, he says. In that context, he says the duty is to build critical thinking. If we had to name an origin, a starting point for this messianic construction of Simon Bolivar in national life, where would you locate it and how would you characterize it? This is where I think it's important when we're talking about the messianic construction of Bolivar to remember that he was a Freemason and that they do have a kind of belief in a one kind of God, like an all-powerful God or whatever. And his anti-Catholic kind of tendencies is better explained from his Freemason than like from a more revolutionary kind of position. So without a doubt, the Bolivarian cult was started by Antonio Guzman Blanco. So it's important to know who this guy is as well. It began during his first government in 1870, when he established the Bolivar as the national currency. The silver peso disappeared. When he created the national pantheon and when he prepared for the celebration of the centenary of the birth of Simon Bolivar in 1883, and a great apotheosis took place. In addition, Guzman Blanco ordered a replica of the statue of Bolivar in Lima, and it was established in the Plaza Mayor of Caracas, which was renamed Plaza Bolivar, and he urged that the main squares of all the towns and cities of Venezuela be renamed Plaza Bolivar. So there is not the slightest doubt that he was the one who started the Bolivarian cult. Guzman Blanco, who had a deep French culture, understood very clearly that nationality required national symbols. That is why he turned Gloria al Bravo Pueblo into the national anthem. Venezuela had no anthem until then. He turned the Church of the Trinity into the national pantheon, where the heroes are, that Olympus of the national gods that is presided over by Bolivar, and next to him are, let's say, the lesser gods, the secondary ones. So let's take a moment to note the important fact that the national symbols that he's invoking for this new nation are European in origin. So that right there is problematic for those who wanted maybe national symbols that are more indigenous to the land that the nation actually resides in.
And you know what was interesting from that video that you showed? When they mentioned the Creoles and they pulled up a picture of the Creoles, they were all dark-skinned people.
Right. But the word
So
Creole is interesting, isn't it? That's where I forget. I read that the other day, but I don't think
I think
that it.
Creole has different meanings depending on what area of the world you're in. Because in Louisiana, Creole means something completely different from what it
Yeah.
would mean in Venezuela.
Well, it means something different now as to what it originally meant. So this is the diachronic versus synchronic understanding of words. So
Hmm.
the original meaning is the diachronic, I believe, and the synchronic is the evolved, like, new synthesis of the term. So when I look up the origin of the word Creole, it says the term Creole originates from the colonial era, referring to people of European, African, and mixed descent born in the Americas, particularly in the Caribbean and parts of Latin America. So Creole is basically European or African mixed with like they were mixed in the Caribbean or in Latin America or whatever, but they're either European or African mixed with indigenous, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really think of
Um,
Creole
uh,
as
it,
European when I've heard of it in the way that it's used today. That's not what
mhm.
comes to mind. So
Well, in Louisiana, it's like French. Um, French. It could be French native, like American Indians, which a lot of people think. Some people think a lot of people think they're black. Cowboy Kitty, since we're talking about that in the comments. And what is it? And European, yeah. No, I'm sorry, Haitian. I'm sorry. The Cajuns came from Arcadia, so that is French, European, and Canadian. So that's the difference. So they both have French influence, right? Because one is white people, and their French influence is from Canada. The other is black people, and their French influence is from Haiti.
and
That's the Louisiana version.
I see Truth Zone's popped in. How's it going, Truth Zone? Good to see you. I've been subscribed to your show. I've been watching a little bit of it. It's interesting. I appreciate how open-minded people are there, willing to talk about basically like anything, even if it kind of gets a little bit rough, whatever. So, but it's fun
Oh
to watch.
yeah, Troop Zone has he a little rough.
They don't pull no punches,
He a little rough around the edges.
but that's how you get to the truth, whatever. You gotta talk about stuff whether people want to hear it or not. So good for
I
you.
mean, you're a little rough around the edges too, Michael.
I can be, yeah.
Well, you can be not as often as Troop Zone, but you can get there.
Well, that might be a little bit of my white upbringing there, where I've been taught, especially the English upbringing, taught all that etiquette and good manners. It's so important. Not really, but yeah, kind of. Anyway, should I read a bit more here?
Yes, please. I have to. I have to walk away for a second, but I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
So let me find where I was. Okay. So next to Bolivar are, let's say, the lesser gods, the secondary ones. So why does he do this? Because he also understands that in a fractured country, national unity is required. We're talking about, when we say, what did he do this? We're talking about Antonio Guzman Blanco. Because he also understands in a fractured country, national unity is required, and he conceives national unity around the cult of Simon Bolivar, that the entire nation is reunited around him. It is a political, cultural, symbolic, and mythological project. So am I the only one who feels like developing the national unity, the national psychology of every person born in the nation 230 years, whatever, after that identity is united around this cult of a person? That seems entirely terrible for psychological development of your people. So, and did you achieve this reunification around Bolivar? Yes, from there the Bolivarian cult began. This cult became much stronger during the dictatorship of Juan Vicente Gomez. Then it became stronger again during the government of Eleazar Lopez Contreras, who even created an organization called the Bolivarian civics, and then practically all the presidents of the Republic in the 20th century fed the Bolivarian cult, military and civilian. Now that seems to have intensified, especially during authoritarian and dictatorial regimes. Codiismo seems to have shaped Bolivar, as did Juan Vicente Gomez and Marco Perez Jimenez. So these are like the fascist dictators that were managed to acquire power in Venezuela. And they utilized the Bolivarian cult just like the Chavistas have. And to me, that's not something that we should be proud of or wanting to perpetuate. We want to distance ourselves from fascists, not do anything that lends credibility to people who claim that we're the same, that red, brown, and alliances are happening all the time. So one thing must be said, Bolivarianism did not subside under democratic governments. It must be said 3 times, apparently. On the contrary, it continued to deepen. The cult of Bolivar is almost a factor. I don't know why they keep repeating these things. Almost a factor in the Venezuelan collective imagination. I would not dare to say that it is exclusive to military regimes. Tributes, annual celebrations, all the pomp surrounding Bolivar increased. Now, I'm reminded when we're talking about creating statues and stuff to Bolivar of the statues in the United States, of the Confederate statues, of the pro-slavery people who want to keep their pre-Civil War history alive or whatever. It's really interesting to recognize how much those symbols matter as far as national identity, and how important it is, if they are toxic symbols, to have them removed. So, you know, just like the de-Stalinization that happened in the USSR, many people argue that was a bad thing that happened. But anytime there's a cult of personality, you're going to need to decult these people, or whatever. You're going to have to tear down that cult of personality eventually, or else you're stuck with it, whatever. It's for some of those viewers who have watched our previous episodes, I've kind of come up with this term called a tautological autarky, and I'm pretty sure that a cult of personality also qualifies for this new term that I've invented. So the reason why cult of personalities are so terrible to engage in, like they're powerful in that they're useful for those who use them, but they're awful in the effects that they create, because they're based on logical flaws, obviously. And so it's the concept of this cult of personality is trapped in a tautological autarky, okay? And that's why it's a terrible idea. So hopefully if you look up those terms separately, you can get an understanding of what I'm saying. So from my concept is that when people use this self-referential argument to defend their ideology, these people, whatever you're gonna have to tear. I'm gonna mute you, Abby. I'm hearing myself. So when you're not allowed to have any external sources into your ideology, kind of thing. It's like a self-reinforcing feedback loop, and it only works because you only rely on your own understanding, and you refuse to allow any kind of new information to disrupt your little cult here, right? So that's where I just kind of wanted to make that point. I don't know if I need to keep really reading this too much. Maybe we'll read this part because it's about Chavez. So Hugo Chavez, on the other hand, called his political program Bolivarian Revolution, and even changed the name of the country. What, in your opinion, is the worst and the best thing during these years regarding the handling of Bolivar's image and legacy? Does it correspond to the real Bolivar, or to one that was constructed for convenience?
Hey,
Actually,
real quick,
go ahead.
before you keep going, Ron,
Say that term.
Yeah.
I'll even write it out. I'll write it out because it's kind of hard to, unless you know how it's spelled, you don't quite catch what I'm saying. So
yeah, I didn't hear the term, so I'd be curious
too. It is a tautological autarky, and exactly.
Say that fast 3 times.
Tautological autarky. Tautological autarky. Tautological autarky. That's a hard one to do. Yeah. But yeah, closed loops don't actually exist in reality. So if your logic is resembling a closed loop, it's because you have a flawed idea, and it only seems perfect to you as long as the loop remains closed. So I think it's a useful concept. But
So
yeah,
this goes back, before you start reading again, this goes back to what we were saying. Oh, I could put my camera back on. This goes back to what we were saying about how, you've been expelled out of all those groups because
because they're engaged in
you have
tautological
information
autarky.
outside of the, yes, because
Yes,
they're
and they don't
engaged
want to
in
break it.
tautological autarky.
Yeah.
So I'm about to use that one. I'm about to run it on them hoes. Don't
Yeah.
don't put me in your tautological autarky. I gotta learn how to say it first.
Yeah. Well, it's important to know what the specific words mean. So, like a tautology is like an argument that says the same thing twice, and it's usually considered bad form. So, in the case of the cult of personality, we could say like uh, the leader is great because we say that he is great. Whatever. Let me like I had been like it's unfortunate that I need to like share with you guys what the AI has been saying to me, because it seems like what the AI is saying is very effective and accurate and useful. But now we're all telling each other don't rely too much on the AI, right? So I asked it, is it fair and accurate to say that cults of personalities are or function as tautological autarkies? And of course, it's got to kind of lick my butthole when it says that is a remarkably sophisticated and precise question. The phrase tautological autarkies is not a standard term in political science, but it is an incredibly potent and accurate metaphor for describing how cults of personality function. So let's break down why it's both fair and accurate. So a tautology is a statement that is true by its own definition and circular in its logic. The leader is great because he is the leader. This is the absolute core of a cult of personality. Circular proof. The leader's greatness is not proven by independent, verifiable achievements, economic data, human development indices, fair elections, but is asserted as a fundamental, unquestionable truth. The proof of the leader's genius is the cult itself. The parades, the songs, the posters, the endless praise. The cult exists to prove the leader's greatness, and the leader's alleged greatness is used to justify the existence of the cult. Control of language and reality. The regime creates its own dictionary of terms. Democracy means the single-party state. The people means those loyal to the leader. Freedom means service to the state. Any critique is defined as heresy or madness because it exists outside the closed logical system. The system is true because it says it is true. Elimination of external validation. The regime does not seek validation from external sources, international law, historical analysis, objective journalism. In fact, it rejects them as biased or hostile. The only validation that matters is the internal, self-generated validation of the cult. This is the tautological loop. The leader is great because the state media says so, and the state media is credible because it speaks for the great leader. Seen anything like that happening with Trump, maybe? So autarky, the self-sufficient closed system. Autarky is an economic policy of national self-sufficiency and independence from international trade. As a metaphor for a cult of personality, it is brilliantly apt. Ideological autarky, the cult creates a closed intellectual and informational ecosystem, cuts off the population from external ideas, historical context, and competing narratives, produces its own history, its own news, its own art, and its own truth. This system must be sealed to survive, just as an economic autarky must erect trade barriers. So I can kind of go on because it gives me a whole lot of response.
Wow, that's giving MAGA. That's giving MAGA all day,
Mag
man.
vibes, yeah.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
keep in mind that's the AI talking, right? So for anyone who wants to say it'll tell you whatever you want to hear, maybe that's exactly what it's doing. But I also think if you are logically consistent, if you ask it a question that is like actually insightful, it kind of has no choice but to give you an insightful response. So
And
yes,
if I'm being
Scientologists are triggered by this.
provocative, it sort of gives liberal vibes too, because they will make excuses for, like, I've had so many Black people make excuses for Biden as not being a racist. He's evolved.
Yeah.
Hi, Black Life.
Babe, you know your cigarettes.
They can hear you.
Hi.
Hi, Tosh.
I'm just talking
Michael
about the
says
cost,
hi.
inflation. It went from 6 to 10.
Okay. She's talking about inflation. Something I like to buy went from $6 to $10.
Oh, goddamn. Yeah, well, we were just saying, how can we trust the inflation numbers?
She
Obviously not.
did. She don't realize her voice carried. Like, I have to hold this mic right here, and she could just be saying something to me, and you'll hear her. So I was just reminding her to stop doing that when she comes in here.
Sorry.
Oh, hi, Elmo. Elmo wishes you well. Rondo says peace. Well, just go get on YouTube yourself.
I will. I just got off work.
Okay, you're interrupting us. Get out of here.
Well, thank you. I was just...
With love. With love.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I thought y'all loved kids. Y'all don't want me
Okay,
to
so,
help?
shh. You throw me off my square now. So, Rondo says Scientologists are triggered by this. Are you not describing Scientology right now?
That's what I did.
I mean, go ahead. Oh, is he frozen?
There we go again.
Okay.
We back? I think we're back.
Yep.
But I did ask the AI about Zionism resembling this tautological autarky, and it did say that, yes, it does qualify as one. It's one of the best examples, actually, I think.
Hold on.
Okay, so I think we kind of made enough points about that. It's getting a bit late, so...
Okay, so one thing, Karen, thank you for joining Discord. Thank you. Anakin is you new here too. We're getting a lot of new people today.
Well, that might be Elmo and Anakin. Maybe Cowboy Kitty is a bit of a cosplayer here, so that might be.
Oh, Cowboy Kitty.
But you never know. That's the beauty of Cowboy Kitty.
You never know. Well, look. Well, make sure you like from all of your pseudonyms. We appreciate it. Okay, so all I have left is if we wanted to do this video about the coup, we could. And then I mean, y'all tell me in the chat, you want us to wrap it up, or it will be 30 more minutes. So give me a 1 for wrap it up and a 2 for fuck it. Let's keep going. Well, we'll see what happens in the chat. Oh, you're ready to go?
Bathroom break here. If we want to stay or whatever,
you could take a bathroom break. I could do it by myself.
Right, while we're waiting for people to give us
I'm waiting for people to give us the vote.
I'll be right back then. So.
All right. 2, they said, fuck it, let's keep on going. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. Let me find it. Because I thought this was so interesting. It's the video is 20 minutes long, but I already watched it and I'm cutting it short. Okay. So here we go. And before I talk about the military, the Marines that Trump has sent to Venezuela, I thought it would be important to revisit this, because at the end, this man says something that is so clear and contradictory of what's happening in Venezuela right now. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, you can see it. My bad. All right, here we go.
If your only purpose as a criminal enterprise, a dictatorship, an authoritarian regime is to stay in power, you need to prevent any attempt to throw you from being in power.
J.J. Rendon is a fervent anti-communist and political fixer. He's worked to influence Latin American politics for decades.
So how long have you been trying to overthrow the Venezuelan government?
Depends on what you call overthrow, but we were fighting from 98. It's 23 years of that.
And do they consider you their enemy?
They recognize me as an enemy of whatever they call the state, because there is no difference in Venezuela between party, state, and criminal enterprise today.
One of his last jobs was working for one Venezuelan president to overthrow the other Venezuelan president. Operation Gideon, a coup attempt launched from Colombia in May 2020 to overthrow Venezuela's socialist government, took 3 ex-Green Berets, 60 soldiers, and months of planning. 2 failed spectacularly.
Operation Gideon was over before the 2 boats even hit Venezuela's shore.
The government had detained 2 former U.S. Special Forces soldiers.
They're accused of being involved in a bizarre and failed plot to overthrow the country's president, Nicolás Maduro.
If you don't understand the rules of power, you are
so sorry
lose to someone who does.
Not my fault. Poor.
When the dust settled, at least 6 of the soldiers were dead and dozens were detained, including the 2 Americans recruited for the job, Luke Denman and Aaron Berry, both on their first ever private military contract. And at the center of this doomed enterprise was a Canadian-American mercenary who turned to social media, choosing to tweet this video about the mission, even as it was falling apart.
Our men are continuing to fight right now. Our units have been activated in the south, west, and east of Venezuela.
The video went viral. This is a story of how modern geopolitics unfold. Shadowy mercenaries, fumbling leaders, and Twitter.
Venezuela is a sovereign country. We have articles in a constitution that says that is not a right, a duty of any Venezuelan with or without power to do whatever necessary, doesn't have any limitation, to overthrow any dictatorship, tyranny, government, oppressors, to regain the rule of law, the constitution, and democracy. So we have a mandate from the constitution, not even from the president.
To be clear, when you're saying the president, you're referring to Juan Guaido.
Sure, the only president that we have. We have a tyrant and a president.
Nicolás Maduro is the sitting president of Venezuela. But after years of civil unrest, food shortages, and crushing sanctions, in winter 2019, young charismatic politician Juan Guaido was named president by Venezuela's National Assembly.
Gustavo Tarre, representante especial de la, está llegando a La Haya para ser reconocido por todo el sistema.
The international community, including the Trump administration, quickly recognized his presidency.
Joining us in the gallery is the true and legitimate president of Venezuela, Juan Guaido.
Guaido called for mass protests and high-level military defections to overthrow Maduro.
Estaremos en las calles. Nos vemos en la calle.
It didn't work because Maduro held onto control of the military and the security forces. A formal body was created by Venezuelan opposition called the Strategic Committee to investigate ways of ousting Maduro. Rendon was appointed its top strategist.
We went to every law possible. In that process, we discovered we cannot use that law. So we study what is the possibility of someone else, a third party, the French Legion, whoever, to pick him up like they have bounty hunters in the United States and present it to justice.
There's no one way to stage a coup, but history shows that it generally starts with casting mercenaries, ex-soldiers who take money in exchange for using or sharing their skill set. Rendon was introduced to this guy, Jordan Gaudreau, a decorated ex-Green Beret and the owner of Florida-based private military contractor, Silvercorp.
I can say I liked the guy in the beginning. He was clever, educated, on time.
Rendon believed Gaudreau, an ex-commando who seemed like a real-life Rambo, actually knew what he was doing.
We needed to transform our military. So he came with a proposal of re-engineering the entire armed forces after the freeing the country. So we wanted to know more, and that begins the entire conversation about Operation Helios.
The two reached an agreement. According to a later lawsuit, Gaudreau's Silver Corps stood to gain a $1.5 million retainer and, if the coup worked, over $200 million backed by Venezuelan oil.
There was some awareness that Jordan Gaudreau had planned to undertake some sort of offensive operation.
A military action, let's call it. Military action. Overthrow, kill, capture. We didn't get into the specifics at that moment.
But before any military action, Gaudreau needed troops and the right personnel to train them. So he brought in his former brothers-in-arms, two more ex-Green Berets, Luke Denman and Aaron Berry.
I always would say to him, dude, clear and present danger. If you don't have that U.S. flag on your shoulder, they don't have responsibility for you. The reason they're hiring you is because you're deniable.
This is Mark Denman, brother of Luke, who's languishing in a Venezuelan jail at this very moment.
Since he left Special Forces, he's always getting offers from, we'll be on a hunting trip.
Oops, sorry.
And guys will talk about how much money they made doing contracting.
Mercenary work.
Contracting work, sure. So for 7 years since he left the military, he's never accepted any of these offers. So now he tells me he's in Colombia, and I immediately kind of heavy sigh, what are you doing, man? Then he goes on to start talking about it and how meaningful it is, and it's the most important thing he's done in his life, and he's doing things that really make a difference.
So he's texting you in 2020 at this point, right?
Yeah, he's texting me from Colombia.
And he's saying he's involved in an operation. Did he tell you what it was for?
He didn't call it an operation. He says he's down there training Colombians. And I said, my response was, who are you doing this for? He says it's a private contract sanctioned by the U.S. government, hired by the president of, the rightful president, I don't remember the exact phrasing he used, but the rightful president of Venezuela.
And so he, from what you're gathering, he thinks this is completely backed by the Trump
this is a U.S. operation. This is exactly.
I know this is hard to hear, but it.
So I'm going to move forward, and I'm glad they stopped it right there on the commercial. Because the next part is about the training that they received, which was a very mediocre training, by the way. I watched the whole thing. Very sad, the training they received. They were using like wooden guns. So they were basically doing like Call of Duty type shit. They weren't really training. It was pretty fucking sad. I could pass that up. Y'all join the Discord. So if you have any videos you want to share, you could share them there.
That doesn't make any sense as far as the why would you try and instigate a coup in a country and then not even train the people going to do the coup like effectively? That to me suggests that you're not even trying to have an effective coup. You intend to have a failed coup to begin with. So, or maybe they're just
I think he was thinking because of the people he was hiring, because they are like ex-military and stuff, that they already had the cojones to do what needs to be done. So this was just like almost like refresher courses or whatever.
Well, it's just classic detachment from reality from the capitalists there, thinking that they, or their representatives, I should say, and someone like Trump. Right?
Excuse me. So yeah, I'm passing up all the training part, and we're going to get to this next part. The culmination being at the end. And here we go. I gotta change my layout. Okay, let's get back to the fuckery.
Roberta says Jordan Gaudreau, the supposed leader, was mostly absent during the training.
What do you think about that guy?
Él impartía conocimientos, tácticas militares por la experiencia, pero no era un líder para nosotros. No interactuamos con él, que normalmente compartimos todo el tiempo fue con Luke y Aaron.
Gaudreau believed he had the backing of the U.S. government. But, at least publicly, then or since, the U.S. wasn't backing Operation Gideon. No one was. Even the contract with Rendon had been supposedly canceled months earlier.
So, throughout this, Jordan Gaudreau is claiming that
fishy,
the U.S.
right?
government is backing this operation.
Yes.
And Juan Guaido, throughout this entire process, doesn't go to the U.S. government and try to vet that piece of information?
No, because we didn't know it was true or not. The only thing that was concerned for us was the backers. Contract specifically say that if you don't bring the backers, the contract is null and void. So he didn't bring the backers, we didn't pay the money, the contract became null and void.
But then more signs of the mission falling apart emerged. In late March 2020, Alcalá turned himself in to U.S. authorities after being indicted on drug trafficking charges, leaving the mission without its commander.
When the Cleaver Alcalá got in prison, he called me, by the way, Nieto, this is impossible. After that, I lost my hope in this operation.
And that wasn't the only problem. Just a month before the operation, Maduro's number 2 person, Diosdado Cabello, actually went on Venezuelan national TV and detailed how they had explicit information on the mission.
Aquí tres, en el escenario de Estados Unidos, Jordan, Luke y Aaron.
Not an ideal development for a clandestine coup attempt.
La información que llegó a tener el régimen acerca de la operación vino primero que todo por la detención de uno de los muchachos que fue a Venezuela a visitar a su familia. El nickname era el Búho, era un capitán del ejército, y por supuesto tenerlo detenido al apresarlo bajo torturas, me imagino, como siempre, le sacaron toda la información y dio la información de algunos nombres, ubicaciones, posiciones. A partir de ese día se comenzó a derrumbar todo. Yo dije, esto se cayó porque este lo va a decir todo. Y sin embargo, la operación continuó.
As the day of the launch approached, the new commander upped the training, and the men went outside the city into the desert.
Esos 40 días en el desierto lo llamamos nosotros como algo bíblico. Duramos bajo la clandestinidad, el sol muy fuerte, la sequía. No podían fracasar la misión, no podíamos desistir del lugar porque ya habíamos recorrido.
Okay, sorry. This is more training stuff. Okay, so they just dropped them in the desert so they can get used to the elements, I guess, like for 2 weeks. Yeah. They had 2 weeks of this before they actually were going to go on a mission, which is very suspect in and of itself. Like, what kind of training is this?
I just found it really interesting that they had mentioned the U.S. arrested this the person that they
concealed carry, and you want to do so comfortably.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Commercial. The U.S. arrested the leader that they had planned on using for their coup attempt over.
And he's staying like a goddamn songbird.
But what's the irony here that cannot be forgotten is they're accusing Maduro of narco-terrorism.
Because we're going into Venezuela for drugs, yes.
Right. And they
I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off.
They were caught red-handed trying to initiate a coup with a narco-terrorist. So that should not be forgotten or brushed under the rug.
Yes, that's hilarious, isn't it? I'm sorry, I went too far over.
Not funny.
But, well, you got to laugh or else you're going to get mad or cry, right?
Exactly.
We gotta keep our humor because you don't want them putting pressure on your heart. So you just got to laugh it out.
Right. Well,
but it's not funny.
I've kind of come up against it.
It's pathetic.
Like there are times I feel like it is actually the wrong thing to do, to laugh instead of cry. And I think the best example is Palestine. So if people are going to laugh at that instead of cry about that, I think that's the wrong reaction. But there are definitely times where it is best psychologically to choose to laugh as opposed to crying or getting mad. You know?
Yes, I mean, well, you can't cry about it's not hard. I mean, it's hard to laugh about genocide, but this we can laugh at, especially since the coup didn't.
Yeah.
If there was ever a time to laugh, it would be now.
Oh yeah, laugh in their face forever because it rubs the salt in the wound. So.
Yep. Here we go.
The mission was over, ending in disaster.
When do you see your brother next? Like, when do you actually see him next?
The next videos we saw with their supposed confession, where they're holding up the contract.
Who commands Jordan?
President Donald Trump.
The Maduro government was pushing the story that Trump was behind the operation, which the U.S. denied.
If we'd have been involved, it would have gone differently.
Okay. We're always taking L's in war. So what is he talking about? if we would have been involved, it would have been differently. Yeah, fucking right.
Yeah.
We've left
that's
with our tails between our legs so many times. The only thing we are successful at is destabilizing a country. We don't ever really truly win.
Unless you consider the
Whatever that
economic
means.
warfare a victory, where I feel like the U.S.
That's
is
true.
the only thing the
economic
U.S. is good
warfare
at
victory.
is economic warfare, right? It's not
That's
actually good at
true.
the kinetic warfare, but even it's proven that it's not as good at economic warfare as its reputation suggests, because it's getting its ass handed to in the trade war with China and whatnot. They're not really proven that they're really good at that, actually.
That is a really good point, Rondo. Rondo says, how do you win a war? I think if you like control territory and stuff like that, like if you gain control, Russia's winning a war. He's gained a lot of control over territory.
Yeah, but it does depend on where you set your goalpost, as far as like you can only determine if a war was won if you close the measurement period, because maybe Russia's winning now, but the problem with war is no one ever actually wins, because the wars never actually end. They're kind of endless. There's always a party that's butthurt because they lost, and they plan their revenge over 50 years, and then the next war happens.
Which is like how Iran was like, we've been waiting for this. We've been preparing for this for 40 years. So kind of like that. All right.
Leaving public office, Bill Richardson has been working as a hostage negotiator, trying to free imprisoned Americans abroad. He's leading the charge to free Aaron Berry and Luke Denman.
I don't think that we're going to be able to get them out right away, because the situation is so hostile between the two countries. There are negotiations.
Even Richardson has suspicions about whether or not the U.S. was involved or knew of the situation.
I don't know what happened. I don't have access to intelligence reports the way I used to, but it seemed suspicious. And the Trump administration did, in foreign policy, have rogue elements, people that were not in the State Department that were doing stuff on their own. And you know, so I wouldn't put it past them, but I can't conclusively say.
A mission intended to be a coup was now ending in a legal battle. In October 2020, Gaudreau filed a lawsuit in U.S. court against Rendon for breach of contract. In it, he named several people in Trump's orbit.
Every time I hit a bottleneck, I build a...
Here we go.
That's a pretty.
So that guy is being disingenuous. Like, I don't know if the United States was involved. How would I know? What are you saying?
Everything hinges on not having the information to make a decision, whatever, conclusively.
Right.
It's not just him.
Didn't
It's
Trump
like
always say that?
None of us know.
I don't know these people. I never heard of them. Who are they? I don't know. Just plausible deniability.
Rondo was saying he thinks the United States has only seen 6 months of peacetime throughout the entirety of the U.S. existence. That's incredible. That's so sad. We should cry over that instead of laugh about that. Okay.
So many new people popping up in here. Is this Cowboy Kitty? Hi, Christy Noms, Runaway Face. That was a hilarious episode of South Park, by the way. Oh my God, that was hilarious. I laughed so hard. Oh, you gotta go back up and watch it. It was funny as hell.
Where do you even watch South Park?
Heaven.
Can you just watch it on YouTube? Or do I have to subscribe, buy a new subscription?
I'm not sure if we pulled it up on YouTube or if it was on Hulu or something like that.
Because if I can watch
look up YouTube first.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch it if I have to pay for a new thing. Sorry.
I know. So yeah, plausible deniability, or like I could watch it with you via StreamYard. We could do that. Sure. It was so funny. I'd watch it again. Look, you caught me. It's Cowboy Kitty.
Former bodyguard and Trump insider Keith Schiller, who introduced him into the coup. He also alleges he sat down in Washington, D.C. with a member of Vice President. in Trump's orbit. Gaudreau alleges he met former bodyguard and Trump insider Keith Schiller, who introduced him into the coup. He also alleges he sat down in Washington, D.C. with a member of Vice President Mike Pence's staff to talk about the operation. Emails to Schiller's lawyer went unanswered, while Vice President Pence's office has denied any connections whatsoever to Gaudreau. Through his lawyer, Gaudreau refused to appear in this report and declined to comment on a list of questions, except to say he denies any and all coordination with the Maduro regime. As for Guaido, he says not only did he have nothing to do with the operation, it was all Maduro. Here's what we know. Even though overwhelming evidence showed Operation Gideon was infiltrated by the Maduro government, Gaudreau still launched it and then basically disappeared.
If you could tell Jordan Gaudreau anything right now, what would you tell him?
Honor your oaths. You made oaths. These are your brothers. Do what you're meant to do. Step up. Stop looking out for yourself.
Nice wishful thinking, guys.
When have you ever seen a colonizer honor their oath?
Honor anything. They don't have honor. They
anything.
Can't. Yeah.
And then how are you trying to blame Maduro for his own coup? Like, make this shit make sense. It is kind of laughable. Like, how stupid? Well, we know how stupid they think some of us are.
Yeah.
But geez. So this is the part that hits home. And then I'll start wrapping it up. So this is the last part of the whole little thing. Do you have something you want to say before I move on?
I'm just thinking this is a good example of the kind of dumb shit that people get up to when they swallow the whole pill of being a colonizer is fine and good, nothing wrong, nothing to see here. And then you go act like this idiot Gaudreau, whatever.
Yeah, they have that meme where they say, conquered, not stolen. And then people added to the meme, like, you know how that's worse, right?
Exactly.
All right, so here we go.
If there was an invasion of Venezuela, how many people, from your estimation, would join up with you? They're just waiting for something to happen.
90%
90%, he says.
militares, policiales, están esperando un movimiento que inicie, que dé el paso para que tome un golpe militar.
Would you do this all again? Would you try to overthrow Maduro in another operation if you had the chance?
Por los momentos no le puedo responder esa respuesta. Existe la convicción de seguir luchando por nuestro futuro, precisamente de nuestros hijos y la libertad de nuestro pueblo.
Leave the kids out of this. Never about.
Do you ever think you're going to succeed in overthrowing this Venezuelan government?
Sometimes I doubt it. Most of the times I wake up thinking that we will eventually succeed.
So dramatic? There it is. Yeah, that dramatic ending. Right. So my question, Michael, my good faith question is, well, maybe I need to get out. Everybody knows this already, so I don't really have to play it. Everybody knows Bondi, the press secretary was like, yeah, we're sending 4,000 Marines because we're going to stamp out these drugs, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's a 44-second video. I could just damn play it, whatever. It's quick. She said what she said, and then she ran the hell up out of there.
3 U.S. warships that are being sent to Venezuela, and there are 4,000 Marines on board. Are you looking at possibility of boots on the ground there?
What I will say with respect to Venezuela, President Trump has been very clear and consistent. He's prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. And Maduro, it is the view of this administration, is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into the country.
For
With that, I will
trafficking.
leave you all, and we will see you later, if not tomorrow. And I look forward to taking more of your questions. Thank you.
She ran out of there so damn fast. She knew she
Yeah,
was
she
full
seems
of
real
shit.
nervous, doesn't she
Yep.
seem quite nervous? Yeah.
She knew she was full of shit. She ran out of there so damn fast.
Well, you
And
can't
so,
prosecute the president of another nation and your courts, whatever. He needs to be prosecuted in his nation's courts, but he doesn't need to be prosecuted at all because he's not a fucking terrorist or a drug dealer. It's bullshit.
Robert mentioned this like so long ago that I'm not going to be able to find it. But he mentioned how how Venezuela has mobilized 4.5 million troops in response to those 4,000 Marines that are coming. So I don't know how they think they're going to combat 4.5 million people, and they're not all the military. It's the military and also like militias in small towns, like telling them to get ready because something might pop off. So you need to be ready. And if that man was correct when he said 90% of the country feels this way, how the hell was he able to mobilize 4.5 million troops? Somebody lying.
Yeah. Well, with the 4.5 million mobilization, the one thing that comes to mind, maybe this is just a paranoid thought, but that does seem to me, if the Trump administration was competent in any way, which seems like they're not actually, which is a godsend or whatever, blessing. The 4.5 million mobilization will be a golden opportunity to be trying to infiltrate the armed forces of Venezuela there. I'm sure Venezuela is much more competent than the United States in that they're well aware of this problem, hopefully, and guarding against it. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, just so people know that Kieran has put something who just joined our Discord, by the way, thank you, has put a video in the Discord if you want to learn a little bit more about Venezuela.
I appreciate that. I've been meaning to learn about Venezuela and South America in general for a while now, and it's probably about time that I get around to actually do that. So.
Ooh, people are not happy with this Pam Bondi, honey. They are talking mad shit in the chat about her. So the only thing I have left, I got to show you this propaganda. Christy, I got to show you this propaganda because this just came out of left field, and the date was today. Let me see. So change my. There we go. So you see the date up here? You don't see the date. Why don't you see the date?
Thursday, August 28th, 2025.
Oh, okay. You do see the date. Okay. Look at this shit right here. GOP representative says Nicolas Maduro's wife could turn him in because she intends to rule Venezuela. So they just throwing. You know how when you cook pasta? Well, this is how I learned that you knew the
throw
pasta
it and stick on the wall.
You throw it on the wall, and if it sticks, that's what they're just throwing pasta at the wall. But guess what? It just keeps falling. Like, I need to look up who is this
Demian Bio. Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, I did not
do
It said Latin Times.
We should do an investigation one time because now that I'm like doing a lot more looking at different articles from different sources, starting to see some of these names look pretty fake. And I bet you like half of these articles are not even written by anyone, or whoever they're written by, their identity is not being
Well, he's
divulged.
showing his picture. Let's see.
Because these are the CIA ghostwriters, you know what I mean?
This is him. Hold on. This is him.
So maybe this guy's
he
real.
writes for Bloomberg, Latin Bloomberg, or Bloomberg Linea. But I mean, Bloomberg is a dead giveaway anyway. Dead giveaway. So I'm definitely not gonna read that article. Yep. I feel like the headline was ridiculous enough that I don't need to be trying to read that article. It's going to, I don't want to waste anybody's time with that. But the last thing I have is from Golden Monarch. Okay, why not leave out of here with a bang? And it is from, I'm going to set it up because we're just going to leave afterwards. Because maybe when Golden Mark comes back on again, which we would love for him to, about crypto, we can revisit this and let him give more information. Because I'm not the crypto person you want to get information from. I try, but it is still confusing to me. But this lady seems like they want to, I guess since Guaido's not working out the way they wanted him to work out, this is the next alternative of the puppet that they're trying to get into office. Or, yeah, I believe so. Maria Corina Machado. Yeah, she's the opposition leader. And so the man that is interviewing her is Alex Gladstein. Okay. Peep that last name. Okay. Gladstein. Chief Strategy Officer of the Human Rights Foundation. I should have looked up the human rights. I need to start doing more like, going down the rabbit hole. Because I bet the Human Rights Foundation has some Zionism attached to it.
Yeah.
But I can't, allegedly. Allegedly. So just pay attention to her, the way she speaks and how she sounds like a politician. And after everything we've discussed today and what we discussed with Golden Monarch about the scam of how crypto is becoming a scam and a money laundering scheme and a way for the elite to find yet another way to steal from us. Think about all those things when you watch this, and then we'll be leaving. So before we leave, you want to say your goodbyes?
Yeah, well, I just I'd say crypto is definitely the last thing that we need right now, that people are kind of convinced is the first thing that we need. So please avoid that idiotic mentality that crypto is going to do anything for anyone. As far as saying our goodbyes, thank you everyone for watching. I'm not sure what we'll be having for you guys next week, but we'll come up with something good. If you guys are joined our Discord and you have anything you'd like us to talk about, please share it with us and let us know that you want us to cover it on the show, and we'll do our best.
We should probably create a channel that says show suggestions or something.
Yeah,
we don't have that channel, right? Oh, but before we do all of that, I found I was saying Bandcamp, but it's actually SoundCloud. That's what Mouse SF is on. He's on SoundCloud. So if you want to support my Mousey, go to SoundCloud and like and share. And then shout out to Golden Monarch.
Sounds like Robert Gibson's an investor in crypto. So I guess to each their own in a sense, but I implore you to exit your crypto investments sooner rather than later. But then again, fiat currency is blood money too. So we're kind of fucked no matter what we do. So.
And Golden Monarch is our resident crypto expert. So here's his Substack if you want to learn more about it. And make sure you guys ask him to come back sometime because he's very informative. So with that being said, we're headed to crypto. I should probably keep this up while we are showing this video. All right, they're talking in the chat. I'm gonna leave them to it. All right, so here we go. Do I have anything to say?
Final
I
words.
guess just bye. Yeah, bye. It's been wonderful hanging out with y'all as always. It's always a pleasure. And I've been trying to be more involved in the Discord. I haven't been doing that before, and that's because it's really y'all because I'm not used to the Discord and I just don't like the way it's set up and
Because you have your phone.
change.
Easier on
Yeah,
the
because I'm on my phone and change is kind of hard sometimes. But I'm working on it. I'm gonna see y'all at the Discord. Okay.
Sounds good. And I'd say, remember, if we treat life like it's a game or a race, the war will be endless. Go out on that.
Thank you, Maria, for being here with me. It's a huge honor to get the opportunity to talk with you. I have immense admiration and respect for you. In Venezuela, your party achieved a historic victory. You were not only able to prove the fraud committed by the government of Nicolas Maduro, who brazenly stole this election, but you were also able to prove your party's victory. And you were able to use technology and transparency to get this done. Yours was a people-powered election. People-powered governance should be the goal of every free nation. And what's also really important is people-powered money. Over the last 24 years, the Chavez and Maduro regimes have completely destroyed the Venezuelan bolivar. Despite enormous oil reserves and oil revenues, the currency has been vaporized and people's purchasing power and wages have been destroyed. The government has tried to paper it over by deleting a zero, adding zeros, changing the currency, but the outcome is really stark. Obviously, we have the hemispheric catastrophe and the world's largest refugee crisis. Now, some Venezuelans have managed to escape this broken system through Bitcoin. For some Venezuelans, Bitcoin has represented freedom money. If it's used properly, it can't be censored or confiscated or devalued by the regime. Can you tell us a little bit about how the Chavistas have destroyed the Venezuelan economy and currency and how they've politicized money and the banking system in Venezuela? And can you also tell us a little bit about Bitcoin and what you think this technology might represent in that it can allow Venezuelans to be their own bank and what kind of place this currency might have in a future democratic Venezuela?
Thank you, Alex, for these super important questions. And thanks to the Human Rights Foundation for raising awareness about our struggle during these very challenging times. The world knows of Chavez and Maduro's human rights abuses, but less is known about their violations of financial rights, a tragedy unfolding over the last 2 decades. The Venezuelan bolivar, once stable at 3 to 4 units per US dollar, has lost 14 zeros under Chavez and Maduro, turning a functional economy into a catastrophic financial crisis. In 2018, inflation reached an unimaginable 1.7 million%, with prices doubling every 4 days. Since 2016, cumulative inflation has exceeded 8 million%, driving millions of Venezuelans to flee our country. This financial repression, rooted in state-sponsored looting, theft, and non-check money printed, happened despite our vast natural resources and despite an oil price boom that peaked at $147 per barrel in July 2008. Beyond breaking the currency, the regime weaponized financial systems against its people, freezing accounts, seizing assets, and cutting off services. Our campaign operates right now without banking access, isolated, yet resolute in our fight for change. Some Venezuelans found a lifeline in Bitcoin during hyperinflation, using it to protect their wealth and to finance their escape. Today, Bitcoin bypasses government-imposed exchange rates and thus helps many of our people. It has evolved from a humanitarian tool to a vital means of resistance. We are grateful for the lifeline Bitcoin provides and look forward to embracing it in a new democratic Venezuela. We envision Bitcoin as part of our national reserves, helping rebuild what the dictatorship stole. Before our gold reserves were plundered, Venezuela had wealthy financial reserves worldwide. We will restore those reserves and include Bitcoin as a key component. The only way to help Venezuela's poorest is by ensuring property rights, low inflation, equal access to opportunity, and government transparency. I invite everyone who shares these values to advocate for a peaceful transition of power in Venezuela and help us. We will prevail. Fortunately, unlike bank wires, which the regime usually block, Bitcoin donations cannot be seized. Let's use this technology to bring about the change Venezuela desperately needs. All funds you decide to contribute will support our efforts for a peaceful transition and the recognition of our victory. What we Venezuelans achieved on July 28th is historic. A citizen movement emerging from a society yearning for freedom, dignity, and justice. A society that after 25 years of tyranny, more than 30 fraudulent elections, and countless human rights violations got united to confront a criminal system. Millions of us organized and voted massively, collecting and digitalizing over 80% of the voting tallies within 24 hours and demonstrate our unquestionable victory. The regime, with all its resources and weapons, could not counter the discipline and intelligence of a society using modern technology to claim its freedom. What we did during and after this election is truly epic, historic. We are now in a new phase. As everyone expected, Maduro refuses to recognize his defeat and has unleashed brutal repression. But we are determined to assert our sovereignty and transform Venezuela into an open, prosperous, and secure society, something that is only possible in a free nation. Thank you very much.
Wah, wah. Wah, wah. Okay, I only came back
when your kid is hurting and there's nothing you can do.
We really messed up go to Monarch's this link. So I to clarify that. So we're going to create a channel in our Discord. It's called Self Promotion. You have a channel, you have a SoundCloud, you have a Substack, and whatever else you have. Please feel free to post it in and see opportunities.
Yeah, I don't know. Your audio is not sounding too great. Whatever that underwater you've been having, it sounds a bit better.
Really?
But I just felt that.
Do you want to say what I just said then?
Well, I was kind of having a hard time hearing it. You're saying
okay.
Messed up. I'm wondering why we popped back on. I'm a little curious myself. But
yes, I popped back on. Can you hear me? Do I sound underwater?
Yeah, you sound better now. I think when I said something, whatever, it's like a software problem, probably audio cancellation kind of thing. So then it corrected as soon as I said something, for what I guess. Anyway.
Okay. So, yeah, I popped back on because there were like 3 different links that were being given for Golden Monarch. So it got a little confusing. So he said that the link that we originally had is not the same or something like that. So what I propose is that we create a channel in our Discord called like Self Promotion, and people could like upload the channel that they have. They could upload SoundCloud, they could upload Substack, whatever, because we're all a community here and everybody has a voice. So I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, okay. So that's the end of it.
Cool.
Unless you have something else to say, we out of here.
No, we've been on for a while now. Time to get out of here. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next week and have a good weekend.